I would like to announce that a quorum is present. The meeting is duly called, and a notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. The time is 6 p.m. The following board members are in attendance: Dr. Buddy Bonner, Catherine Sells, Michelle Lockatebs, Dr. Stacy Barker, Dr. Sheila Taylor, and Jenny Prosnick. I've asked board member Stacy Barker to lead us in prayer.
Please pray with me as you so choose. Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, you declare your glory and show forth your handiwork in the heavens and in the earth. Deliver us in our various occupations from the service of self alone, that we may do the work you give us to do in truth and beauty and for the common good. For the sake of him who came among us as one who serves, your Son, Jesus Christ our Lord, who lives and reigns with you and the Holy Spirit, one God forever and ever. Amen.
We will now convene into closed session as authorized by Texas Government Code Section 551, specifically 551.074. The time is 6:01 p.m. We are back on the record in open session, having returned from closed session. The time is now 6:24. Let the record reflect that Ms. Lasan joined us at 6:04 p.m. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. First item is to consider action on items discussed in closed session. The principal at Memorial STEM Academy. Would someone like to make a motion? Dr. Taylor.
Madam President, I move that the board approve Sherry Miles as the new principal of Memorial Elementary School STEM Academy as recommended by the administration.
I need a second. Ms. Sells? We'll call for the vote. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is 7-0. Vote carries. Congratulations. Ms. Miles, would you bring your family up here and share them with us? Yeah, you want to bring your family on up? Come on, I saw them here earlier. They dress nice and everything. Take a picture first, or none of this happened. Okay. And then, if the lovely people from Memorial would like to join us for a photo. Where do you want them? This is where you get to direct. Yeah, we really got to mark this. I'll fill in like right around her. Come on close. You all showered. Come on. Come on in. Or y'all want to be there beside her like that? Everybody come on in. Find your window. I mean, we have done this enough.
Just make sure you got a window. Make sure you got a window. And then they're going to fill in around you. Can you see them all? Come on in. Okay.
Do I need to move anything?
I'll come on around.
Do I need to move this?
You want to stand by your mom?
Yeah. Congratulations again, Ms. Miles. Ms. Lassam, will you read our mission and vision statements?
Yes, our mission statement for the evening is engaging and inspiring learners and leaders. And the vision statement is all students are confident, equipped with the knowledge and skills to thrive and adapt for their future.
Thank you so much. Public comments are next on the agenda, and we have no speakers, so we will move on. Next up are discussion items. Accountability and Evaluations Report. Dr. Fitzhugh.
Okay, so while Dr. Deaton and Ms. Gertie are making their way up to the podium, I'll give a little intro. TEA allows districts to participate in a program called the Optional Flexible School Day Program, in which we're allowed to reach out to students to have them complete courses, graduate high school, and it allows for a flexible school day. That's why that's in the name. Part of that program is that we are to provide the board with an update each year. So Dr. Deaton and Ms. Gertie are here to provide that update tonight.
Okay. So I'm Deanna Gertie as the Associate Principal at Lewisville Learning Center and the Principal of Night School this year. And first I wanted to say to everyone, thank you for everyone that was able to make it to graduation. It was very meaningful for our kids, and we were so happy to see so many people there. So thank you for coming. So, I'm new to this, sorry.
There we go.
Okay, so our mission at Night School, we are looking at at-risk students, and we're just trying to provide them what they need to successfully graduate high school and to help them transition into post-secondary education or the career of their choice. For the optional flexible school day program components, we are servicing students 9th through 12th grade, meeting the criteria for at-risk and dropouts are eligible to participate. All of our students are at least 16 years old. They are required to still take and pass their STAR tests and get the minimum graduation requirements. And this program has been in place since 2009-2010. So at Night High School, they can earn half a credit every 4.5 weeks. And if you see where we were this year for 2025, we offered a lot of different credits in all of our core and in some electives. For some of the electives, for them to get those options, some students do have the opportunity to come in and do our 0 hour, which mirrors the 4th period for our day school program, so they can get the PEs, the foreign languages and stuff like that, that we do not offer during the night school because we only offer the 4 academics classes. So, like I said, we go Monday through Friday, 2:05 to 7:20. We do have, I'm the administrator, I'm shared with Learning Center. We have a counselor that's shared with Night School. We have 4 full-time teachers. We have many teachers that come in and help us serving the kids either on the with the 0 hour. We have teachers that come in and help support with the special ed and the ESL population as well. We had 140 dual enrolled students this year, so coming from the 5 high school campuses or our day school program that also took classes at night with us to help either get ahead or catch up on some classes they were not successful with on their campus. And we have the opportunity to provide dinner for free for a lot of these students. And they really like the chicken Caesar salads, we found out. When we had that, everyone was really excited about that one. But they learned what to do on that. We had from what I understand, it was my first year, but from what I understand, our biggest class ever, we had 44 graduates this year, and 24 of them showed up before graduation, which was great. I don't know if you saw it, but one of them slid in like during the ceremony. He sit in front of me and he's like, "Hey, miss," and I was like, "Oh, hi. Where'd you come from?" But hadn't had that before. But we got through it, and what was important is that they were there. So we have 11 students that are already continuing for next year, and we've already been having interviews to have some more students. We did recover 28 of our students. We did pull directly off the dropout list, and that was the teachers and I calling and letting people be aware of our program, and we had 28 students enroll in the night school program because of that this year. So over the past 6 years, we've had 236 students graduate through the night school program, and we average 54 students each of our 8 terms. And as you can see, we have students this past year from every single high school campus. Lewisville High School had the most, and TC had the next, but we see them from all. We tallied up 606 phone calls and 328 emails of just outreach, working off of the dropout list of just reaching out to everyone. And that was done by myself and our teachers. And there's just some graduate testimonials if you want to read those. Those of you that were at graduation, you were able to hear their speeches, and we were just so proud of them. And we know that if we can get them there and get them to buy into coming every day, then we can get them through. And that's just kind of been what we've been trying to do. And that's what we got. And there's some pictures. This is this year's graduation. So, any questions?
Mr. Son.
I don't have a question. I just have a comment and a compliment, I suppose. I'm very sad that I was out of town. I wasn't able to come this year. But last year, one of my students that I mentored, and I promise not to give this story every year, but one of the students that I mentored, at through communities and schools, she graduated through this program, and her family had moved, but then that didn't work out. And then by the time we tried to get her back to Lewisville, it was February. And so thankfully we were able to get her into night school. And I think we even had to do some crazy transportation to get her there. I think she might have used the Denton transportation. Like
Go Zone?
Yeah, the Go Zone, I think, was actually what she did sometimes to get there. But it worked, and she would not have walked across the stage. And she did the night school, and she came to the big graduation too. So, it's a small but mighty program, and I'm just so glad that you guys are there, because otherwise she and other kids like her would not have graduated. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Barker.
Thank you, Madam President. One thing that touched me this year at graduation was, I think a lot of times we have in our minds, perhaps our community has in their mind, the kind of student that ends up at night school. And there was one young lady this year who came from our collegiate academy and graduated with 30 credit hours of higher education, in addition to completing her high school requirements through the night school. And so I just want people to know that this is something for any student that is in a situation that needs it. It's not one kind of kid. It's not one kind of campus. It's for anyone who needs that extra layer of support to get it done. And I think you saw in the testimonials that one-on-one attention with teachers and counselors, and being able to plan through, how do I get my credits in and still be a senior, right? We had that conversation about this young lady, making sure she was still able to go to the celebrations with her fellow graduates. So that really touched me this year. And then I have one question. Do we know why the part-time numbers were so much lower this year? They typically track with the full-time, but I noticed there's a bigger discrepancy there. Do we have a reason for that?
I don't know exactly why. I'm new this year, and our counselor was also new this year. So we just pulled the data from what we saw. We are at the mercy of, the students coming over from the other programs. So I don't know if that had something to do with it. But one of the things that we are working on is our counselor, Ms. Curry. She's also going to go out and talk to the counselors at the other schools herself so that they are aware of what we can offer and who we can offer things to. So that's one of the things that we are going to be working on for next year, and we've already talked about putting some stuff in place for that for next year.
I think that's the biggest difference is, with new people, just making sure that connection's there. And our enrollment in LLC in general is very dependent on the counselors being consistent in that update. And so one other thing that drives master schedule for night school is there are some things that we just offer, but our master schedule is driven by the full-time kids. So it may have been some things like we just weren't offering it during the term that they needed it. But they've done a wonderful job of outreach, and I know, like she said, that's something that they've already gotten in the books for this year. So,
Dr. Taylor.
Yes, I concur with what my colleagues have said. I think sitting on that stage, what stands out to me most is we don't give up on our kids, and I think that's what I can take from that. My two questions are, and this is just confirmation, I can't remember if the graduation of the students through this program, do they still count in our overall graduation rates for CCMR reports?
They do. It just depends on if they're with their original cohort or not. Some of them,
Gotcha.
if they've become 5 or 6 year graduates,
Understood.
then
Okay.
we've reclaimed them, but that data has already been reported as part of
Understood.
TAPR
Okay,
and
gotcha.
accountability.
And then my next question was related to the 92%, I think, graduation rate. I know this program has been in place for 6 years. Have we seen that number? Is it like trending upward? Like, did it start at 80? Are we moving upward as we move through?
I think
years
it
of
has
existence?
trend. Well, this is my 9th year, and so we did start to trend up, and I don't think we've gotten above 92
Gotcha.
yet, but
Okay.
I think just finding the kids and what do you say? You've got 44 coming back of 11 of 44. Well, they'll be calling those 33 saying, hey, come on,
Gotcha.
come on,
Okay.
and so that would certainly be a goal, but it has trended upward since we've
Started
since,
it.
yeah,
Okay.
well, in the 9 years that I've
The
been
9
there,
years.
but I don't think
Gotcha.
we've ever exceeded 92.
Okay.
Not
Thank
quite
you.
yet.
Thank you.
Ms. Sells?
I just wanted to concur, especially what Dr. Barker had said, that this isn't what many in the community would believe. And that when you talk to these kids, and many of them just told me this year, they said, I was thrilled because myself and my parents, we didn't know once I had stepped out that there was any hope for me. And so just knowing that you all cared, I believe, made their efforts greater than they ever had been, because they didn't want to fail you guys. And that was what 2 or 3 told me. They said once we came back, we were going through because there was no telling them we didn't do it. And so even though the numbers seem low for, I think, a program, in our efforts, there's no price. You can't put a price on what these kids are going to accomplish moving forward versus what they would not have accomplished had they not had this opportunity. And so every year, I remember when we were at Harmon and it was only a few of us and we weren't even on the stage then.
Yes.
I mean, there was just a few walking across. I think we had 13 one year, maybe. And a lot
the
of them
lowest
didn't
year
even
for
have
me
their
has been 6 or 7.
Yes,
So,
yes. And I mean, it was so small. And to see what it's grown into and to see how they have taken really ownership of, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to be there and I'm going to be on that stage, and I'm going to get this diploma. And so just thank you all for all you do. I know that there's probably easier kids to work with and easier programs to be in, but it just says so much about the heart of everybody that is on your campus. And
Absolutely.
it just is remarkable. So thank you all.
Thank you. They've done a great job. The connection piece obviously is the most important, but it's a lot harder to say you're not coming to school to someone standing on your front porch. So, but we certainly appreciate the support and the guidance that we get from you guys every year.
Well, I will say graduation season does not start until we do night school graduation. I do have a question. Is there a capacity for night school?
Well, we have 4 full-time teachers, so, just depending on as many as we can fit in their classrooms at any given time. So we do have some on our dual enrolled students. Some of them only come for the first class, some of them only come for the second class. We do have a couple that come for both, but not usually. Usually it's just one or the other. But, I think if we were to get, 15 to 18 in a class times 4 times 2. So I think anything more than that would really be pushing it. But what we, fill it up with what we can of our full-time students, and then we open it up to anybody else that wants to come.
Especially in the last 9 weeks of the school year, if we've got seniors that need to pull in government, that's when Shirley implements the adjunct people. So if it's a graduation requirement, unless we just don't have money, then we make that work for them. So we prioritize seniors and catching up any credits that they need in the spring. But I think it's one of those things. Travel is part of it. The second period tends to have higher numbers for part-time, just because it's hard for, if they're not an LHS kiddo, it's hard for them to get there. But it's worked out.
Yeah.
Right, thank you all so much. Next is Learning and Teaching Report. Ms. Gall.
Good evening, President Prosnick, Dr. Rapp, members of the board. Our CTE team, led by Mr. Cooper, is here to provide an update on the instructional materials that they are looking to adopt. Joining him is Miriam Wine, Brooks Humphrey, and Kristen Petrunen.
All right. Good evening. Thank you for having us back. It definitely has been an exciting, really past couple of years of really adopting our resources and making sure that we have everything that we need with all of the changes in the last 10 years in CTE. So just a recall from last year, there we go, Proclamation 2017. So we brought these towards y'all last year for approval. So y'all approved all of the courses that we were recommending last year in the publishers. And then we brought this timeline toward you last month. So we went through the teacher review committees, we did the discussion item, and now we are here for the info item, and then next week will be the consent item. And then we will begin the ordering materials pending approval and pending of funding available, and begin the professional learning for our teachers, which will be happening throughout this summer with these 3 administrators. And then just to recall, the courses under consideration under each of the following CTE clusters. We didn't list out all of the courses because that would take out a few slides. So with that, and then our CTE priorities, which are consistent with what we did last year for Proc 2017. The biggest things that we honed in on this year were the student support, the teacher support, the accessibility, and just making sure that everything was really aligned with where we're going, industry-based certification, CCMR, and all of that. So really honed in on that last bullet, the future career prep and industry-based certification. So with that, These are the first three of our four publisher recommendations. The fourth one will be on the next slide. So e-dynamic learning, mostly throughout all of business marketing and finance, outside of a couple that are listed in the next bullets. Human services for principles of human services and lifetime nutrition and wellness, and then our hospitality and tourism courses. ICEV, continuing using that for all of our ag courses, for fashion marketing, and then interpersonal studies and counseling and mental health. And then Goodhart Wilcox would be accounting and financial services, because that's consistent with our IBC, as well as applied nutrition and dietetics. Then for Cengage, we would be recommending Cengage for our health science courses, and then our accounting, which is also aligned to that industry-based certification. No recommendation for architecture, construction, arts AV, engineering, and law and public safety. The reasoning for that is the supplemental materials that they already use, and those are so industry expert heavy. We didn't have any that was aligned with all of those TEKs, and anything that would align with those industry-based certifications in those courses. So anything that was directly aligned with those industry-based certifications, we made sure that we had the adopted resource with those. So those are the only four that we have coming forward that do not have a recommendation. And then these are the student views. So I've got three different student views that we'll be showing you. So this is the e-dynamic learning platform. These are the screenshots from the student iPads, just to make sure that you see the capability and the compatibility with them. So this platform is currently used within LISD. It's currently used in our career and college exploration course at the middle school levels, and as well as our intro to culinary. So Canvas integration allows the grade syncing, access to the literacy support toolbar. So all of those features are accessible for the iPads. And then ICEV, this has been used for a long time in LISD. The platform's accessed via LHub, and there's a screenshot there as well. And then our Cengage platform, this is, once again, currently used within LISD, has been used for a long time. Canvas integration for grade syncing, and it also provides simulations prior to lab experiences as well. So those are some screenshots that will give you what that would look like from the student iPads. And then some additional notes. Once again, all of these are currently being used in our CTE programs and other courses, so they've already been approved as vendors, very familiar with our purchasing processes, and all recommendations are compatible with our student iPads. So with that, I will take any questions.
Any questions, comments? I do have one.
Absolutely.
Could you give me an example of a supplemental, what we use as supplemental in like architecture, in the courses where we didn't adopt? Could you, just one, you don't have to give me an example for all of them, but just an example.
Absolutely. Forensics or law and public services is one that we'll use the first, like the FAST system, the first active shooter systems, things like that. They don't have any curriculum adopted around that. The certifications that we'll go through for that will be the security officer training certification. I forget the actual name of it, but because these IBCs sometimes are so new, they haven't written anything for them. So we have to rely on the contractor or the vendor, somebody else that we're bringing in, they provide that. Another one would be if we're going through our NCCER curriculum, we a lot of times will use our teachers that are trained in NCCER to go through and provide that content, and it's not necessarily an adopted curriculum, but that's what they need for the certification. The reason we don't bring all of those resources available is, for example, the IBC list is up for renewal and potential refresh this year. Hopefully it's going to be easier on us all. In the event something like that switches, then something that we would have just adopted, we would be coming right back before the board next year. We just adopted this last year for the supplemental curriculum. Now we have to adopt a new supplemental curriculum because the IBC changed. That help?
Yes, it
Okay.
does. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Next is the superintendent report. Dr. Rapp.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'm going to ask Carrie Baker to come on up. She's first under my section for her State of the Council update, and we'll be getting her slides on the screen, and you can sit anywhere if you want in the middle.
As long as there's a microphone.
And thank you so much, Carrie, for being here tonight and sharing the information that you have for us. We're excited to hear from you.
You're going to press the little man.
You guys, this role comes with many opportunities. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and Dr. Rapp. My name is Carrie Baker, and I'm honored to be with you tonight as the president of the Lewisville ISD Council of PTAs. I appreciate the time you're allowing me to share with you the efforts we made as a council this year. Oh, that was supposed to be the first slide. I hold this upside down. There we go. In PTA, everything starts with the mission, including reports to the school board. Our mission is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. That mission is our why in everything we do, from hosting district-wide rallies to advocating for public school funding to helping a brand new treasurer figure out sales tax, if that is possible. Tonight, I'd like to tell you some of the ways in which the LISD Council of PTAs has endeavored to embrace that mission and vision of PTA. First, we are a membership organization who advocates. Our total membership this year reached 16,624 members, comprising parents, students, school administrators, faculty and staff, community partners, and more. And to put that into perspective, I have a chart of our membership totals from the last 10 years. See if you can guess when the pandemic hit. Next, this chart shows our PTA engagement, meaning percentage of membership total to student enrollment by school year for the past 5 years. You can see we've been fairly consistent, but I think that might be something that we look at when we're setting future goals. And just for more perspective, I have a comparison of our PTA engagement to a few of the councils in our surrounding areas. Looking at the standards of affiliation with Texas PTA, out of our 59 PTAs, 53 have met the requirements to be in good standing. We have one in inactive status, Lakeview Middle School PTA, which will go into charter withdrawal at the end of July. However, we have been working closely with them, and we have a plan in place to run their elections and get them back into good standing next fall. And finally, we have 5 PTAs dissolving at the end of June due to their campuses being retired. As you know, our PTAs face some challenges this year. I heard more than once, this is not how I expected this year would go. And I think all of us have said that, including me. When the list of campuses up for retirement was released, I had the unique opportunity to guide those local PTAs in their efforts to advocate for their schools according to PTA guidelines. I attended special meetings held by Highland Village and Garden Ridge PTAs where their memberships voted on an official stance regarding advocating for their schools. When these PTAs first approached me for advice, as well as Dr. Rapp called me as well, I discovered very quickly that there was no written guidance from Texas PTA specifically on this subject. I spoke with several state leaders and had to use my best judgment to apply what guidance I was given. I am pleased to report that because of this, Texas PTA has added an appendix to their resource guide for leaders on drafting a resolution so that PTAs all over Texas will know how to proceed in similar situations. After winter break and the announcements of the campus retirements, I organized collaboration meetings between the dissolving PTA presidents and their receiving PTA counterparts to help them break the ice and start discussing what their new PTAs would look like. I've also worked with Texas PTA Charter Services in assisting these PTAs through the dissolution process, and attended the dissolution meetings for Creekside and Highland Village PTAs as well. Despite the challenges faced this year, 37 out of our 59 PTAs had a percentage of total membership to student enrollment high enough to achieve Voice for Every Child status from Texas PTA, including 4 of our dissolving PTAs. We were pleased to honor Prairie Trail, Liberty, and Garden Ridge Elementary PTAs for receiving the Platinum Voice for Every Child award, meaning their PTA membership was 100% or more of their total student enrollment. And if I'm not mistaken, Prairie Trail PTA reached 110%. We had 5 PTAs reach gold status with 75% or more of total student enrollment, 14 PTAs reached silver status with 50% or more, and 15 PTAs reaching bronze status with 25% or more. You'll notice that we have a few middle school PTAs and even 1 high school PTSA on that list, which is not easy to do, so we're very proud of them. Many of our locals earned monthly membership awards from Texas PTA. Our council as a whole also received several membership awards, some of which are pictured here. I want to thank our district administrators for joining PTA and helping us earn the Golden Apple Award. That's a big one for locals and councils. It's kind of like the yardstick for, is this PTA potentially worthwhile or should we just pity them? So thank you for joining and supporting PTA. We also received the Shining Star Award at the gold level, and I don't know what that means, but we are very proud that we achieved that. We also received the Family and Student Engagement Impact and Advocacy Impact Awards. It's been an especially big year for advocacy. Our most visible advocacy efforts was probably our participation in Texas PTA Rally Day. We had at least 75 attendees from LASD, including parents, students, and several people in this room. We had a student, Anushka Kolitkar, a sophomore from Marcus High School, was chosen to participate in a panel at the student caucus held in the morning. And after the rally and a group lunch with the Wiley Council of PTAs, we divided up by legislative district and met with each of our state House and Senate representatives or staffers from their office. I don't want to say it was eye-opening, but the experience was informing, not one that we will forget. Throughout the year, we encouraged our members to vote through the PTA Votes campaign. And this year, more than I personally have ever experienced, we have called on our members to use their voices to advocate for public education. With both Texas PTA and LASD leading the charge, our members called legislators, sent emails, attended town hall meetings, and submitted public comments like never before. I am proud of our community and the efforts they made to advocate for our schools. One of the elections we encouraged our members to vote in was the school board elections in May. And so to help our voters make informed decisions, our council hosted a candidate forum in April. We invited all 4 of the candidates to participate, much to their delight, I'm told. We felt it was important for the constituents of even the uncontested candidates to hear their views on relevant issues, and we are pleased that they all accepted our invitation. So before I close, I want to share a little bit about our council-led programs. Our Dress to Learn closet provided clothing and hygiene items for thousands of students at an exponential increase from previous years. Our committee chair made a few masterful partnerships with businesses in our community that provided financial support to our program. Thousands of volunteers also served by sorting, washing again, sorting again, fulfilling orders, sorting, delivering orders to schools, sorting, and picking up donations from all over LASD, which were then washed and sorted. Our PTA Partners program continues to grow. I originally pitched this idea 2 years ago, intending that local PTAs could request help from and offer support to other locals whose strengths and needs aligned. What is developing in the hands of my amazing board members instead is even more beautiful than what I imagined. What's happening is that our PTA Partners program is naturally merging with what we call outreach to our non-traditional campuses. And local PTAs are partnering with each other to provide for the needs of the Lewisville Learning Center, the Lily Jackson Early Childhood Center, the Student Success Center, and our 2 tech campuses. Our PTA partners have provided snacks, drinks, and meals to these campuses throughout the year, and the gratitude we have felt from the recipients has been immense. During Teacher Appreciation Week, our outreach chair arranged for each of these 5 campuses to have fully stocked staff room snacks and drinks all week long, a breakfast and a lunch delivered and served. In all that week, we had PTA partners from 11 different PTAs provide these meals and treats. Our Reflections program did very well this year as well. We had participation from 32 campuses, including 4 that had not participated before. Our students submitted 499 entries, 176 of which advanced to be judged at the district level. Of those, 24 advanced to state, and we were thrilled to have 2 LISD students go on to represent Texas at the national level. In February, right before Rally Day, which I will never do again, we held our Founders Day banquet the Stars at Night at Circle R Ranch. We honored 101 recipients of the Texas PTA Honorary Life Member Award and 9 Extended Service Award recipients. We had 273 guests and a lot of meat. And the feedback on the food was very positive. Finally, I'm happy to share that we awarded 10 high school senior scholarships through LEF this year, and we were also able to endow 2 more scholarships, bringing our total number of endowed scholarships to 6. This year has been busy and exciting, to say the least. My board members worked tirelessly in their roles, and I cannot express enough my gratitude and admiration for them. While we accomplished a great deal, there's no rest for the weary, and our 2025-26 board is already hard at work planning another great year. I want to thank you for your partnership and continued support. I know not every council is blessed to have such a strong relationship with district leadership, and we are truly grateful for ours in Lewisville ISD. I appreciate your time tonight, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have, especially if they're easy ones.
Ms. Sells.
I just want to say thank you for all that you all do for the district. It's having sat in your seat along with Ms. Al-Khatib at other ways, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know about, and I will tell you that when we don't hear about them at this level, we appreciate the work that you're doing at your level. And so thank you just for continuing to be that partner with us, to inviting us to things. There's nothing like a good reflection ceremony. And I will tell you that I got that Google thing that says I'm at my capacity, and I went back to my Google Docs, and I finally deleted council things from 2014. I figured that the time had lapsed that I could pass them on, so they went to the little trash can file. So, but it just, the work that y'all do is immense, and to cover the entire district, it's just a privilege, I know, for all of us to be a member of at least one or several PTAs, so thank you.
Carrie, I want to thank you for your leadership and for making this council yours in many ways, and developing new processes and procedures, because that's what we're known for. But for doing that, I'm greatly appreciative of that and how inclusive you and the council are to all of the PTAs, and it's so welcoming to anybody in the district. I said it at that forum, but I do think you are the 6th star in our LISD
Aww.
stars. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah, now we get
All right, so topic number 2 for me is the 89th legislative session update. So I wanted to touch base on just a few of the bills, and of course today is the last day of the regular session, and we're watching all of that still very closely. So related to school funding, and of course we'll talk about school funding a lot in Scott's fiscal year 26 presentation coming up. But to echo what Carrie shared just a few minutes ago,
and I shared this in my staff update that I shared with all of you, that I really appreciated all of our stakeholders who reached out to our state representatives and state senators regarding House Bill 2 with concerns about how the Senate had made changes to the House version. I do think that while we didn't end up with the House Bill 2 we had hoped for, we ended up with a much better version because of the strong advocates, and our community has many of those. And Carrie was one of my phone calls that night, and I was like, call up the people and activate them, and she did, and she does, and I'm very appreciative for that. All who took action made a difference, and we're very thankful that at least a compromise had to be made between the House and the Senate. On House Bill 1481, I mentioned this one in my last update to you all, but this is headed to the governor. It will require you all to adopt a policy to prohibit the use of personal communication devices, which does mean cell phones, while on school property during the school day. When we talked last, we didn't know if they were going to land on instructional time or school day. It's school day, and we must address disciplinary measures to be imposed for violation of the policy. So Mr. Skelton, along with Mr. Colbeck and Ms. Gall and Jonas Green, are all meeting and talking. We'd already been doing homework on this and getting feedback about what do we need to put in place to be ready to respond. So I'll keep you updated on our response for 1481. Senate Bill 569, I just wanted to give you an update on that. I talked about this one last time as well. It was already headed to the governor's desk. This allows for virtual education, and it expands who you can have qualify to receive virtual education. It would allow you not only to be able to collect ADA for a full-time virtual student, but also for a hybrid approach where students may be coming and going. And we think some of the school districts that already have had virtual programs because of the law that opened the door for a full-time virtual, they're, of course, well poised to respond to this much more quickly than school districts like us that haven't had something like that. But I would say we met as a team, and what we really believe the best thing to do right now is to issue an RFP to see what providers are out there who would be willing to help us stand up more virtual options for students at both the elementary, middle, and high school levels. This will also allow us time to see what the commissioner's rules look like when it comes to attendance taking and reporting. There's just a lot of unknowns related to this. And while some school districts may go ahead and jump out there with something, we'd rather not jump out there with something that we have to pull back and change. So we believe we can bring you a more thoughtful solution to this at some point during the next school year for rolling out possibly the year after in the 26-27 school year. Senate Bill 2929 would allow, it's on its way to it was sent to the governor on May 15th. It will allow referees, judges, and other officials at school extracurricular athletic activities to eject spectators without first issuing a verbal warning. I'm not for sure exactly. We were talking this morning about this one, which sports or activities you will see this the most at. I don't know that we see somebody running up into the stands on a football game, but you never know. So that will be interesting to implement. We'll keep you posted on that. Then what will be on the November 2025 ballot will be a constitutional amendment to increase the amount of the homestead exemption from $100,000 to $140,000 as a result of SJR2. Senate Bill 1191 is going to be very interesting, relating to developing a standard method of computing a high school grade point average. And I included the language for y'all from the explanation of this bill, of what they were seeking to address. Ms. Prosnick had asked me earlier if I'd seen, more about the timeline on this one, and really what it states is just the timeline is as practicable as possible, allowing the commissioner time to develop what the calculation will be. But this will require a board policy change once the commissioner comes up with what's that is going to look like.
House Bill 6 is going to bring in quite a bit of changes when it comes to discipline management. You've probably been seeing quite a bit about this out there in the news recently. It would extend how long schools can place students in-school suspension from 3 days to as long as schools see could be appropriate. One of the things that they're really trying to address with this bill is serious, significant classroom disruptions. Principals would need to review those placements every 10 days. Students facing in-school suspension would still complete their schoolwork in a different classroom on school grounds. The bill does also allow schools to use out-of-school suspensions to discipline all students for just repeated and significant classroom disruptions, which would allow us to use OSS with students in K through 3. That's a big change because K through 3 has pretty much only been those mandatory offenses, assaults, and things of that nature. I don't think any of us are for sure exactly how this is going to work if you have a student served in special education and you've got special education laws there. So it will be a little bit of a learning curve, but we're working to understand what this means, as all school districts are. It allows you also to utilize virtual education and virtual opportunities for students who are in DAEP and other out-of-school settings. And that's all of my update tonight. So I'll take any questions if you have any.
Dr. Bonner.
Thank you, Ms. Prosnick. Dr. Rapp, thank you for all that. I had a couple of questions on what you presented. On the House Bill 1481 on the phones, look forward to getting that as quickly as possible from you all. I think that's a huge plus for our classrooms. I do understand maybe some parental misgiving on communication, but I think the long and short of it will be a great change for our classrooms and our ability to instruct kiddos and maintain classroom management. House Bill 6, I appreciate your thoughts on the interplay with special education. That's going to be a huge really concern. I know that our schools folks will come up with a discipline management plan and provide some guidance on those. But, you know, I can see a situation where Kid A, who is special ed, and Kid B, who is not special ed, face very separate consequences for the same act based on that, given the restriction of being out of placement for 10 days. So we're going to have to really pay particularly close attention to that. Just because we can do some things doesn't mean we should, right? And then additionally on that, that's a sea change for parents. And so, you know, I'm grateful for the change and giving us more local control on what we can do, but also hopeful that we can have some communication with parents on what that's going to look like. Because really, spending a second grader out of school repeatedly for the same behaviors, we're not changing anything unless we're working with that parent on changing that kid's behavior. And so that's going to start with communication, I think. So I'm looking forward to that. And then lastly, something you didn't address was, you know, we talked a little bit about the bill to restrict the sale of bonds and go out for bonds. Had a House version and a Senate version. Any input on where that landed?
I don't think any of those restrictions have passed.
I almost hated to bring it up, but given that they closed out today, it's a good, safe time to do that. So thank you.
Dr. Bonner, I would say that those bills did not get the third reading, and therefore they just went gently where all good bills go to die.
Yeah, I didn't take the time to look on TLO, but I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Ms. Sells.
Yeah, I had two notes. One was, again, on the communications, because this is a huge change. Several of these things are. And not only with the parents, which I agree with, or the guardians, or whoever that would be, and I agree with my colleague on that, but also when these take effect and we get our guidance from the commissioner, that's going to create a rewrite of some of our student code of conduct. And we haven't really made major changes. We've tweaked that over my time here on the board, but these are major changes. So I think it's imperative that not only do we have that parent piece, but we're going to have to really do an education piece with our students. And just, I'm not saying that a K through third grader is going to know, but I'm talking about the phones and the other things, and especially our older students. We're going to have an education piece developed around that really is collaborative with the district and the students and the parents. And so, because like I said, I think this is going to be a huge hit in terms of changes to our students' code of conduct. And so I want it to just be on the forefront and getting those messages out there. Hey, this has passed, and please look for, be prepared. We will have guidance for you. Students, here's yours, and parents, here's yours. So just once again. And I agree with Dr. Bonner. Just because we can doesn't always mean we should.
I definitely think, it's going to be important for us to really work with our administrators at Inspire about, sometimes you don't want to be the pioneer in certain territory. And we understand why the why behind this bill and don't disagree with that. We all know we hear from our teachers the concerns about significant disruptions to the classroom. But we also know that, for instance, we may need to take a step back and look at what some OSS for K through 3 looks like, because the children still will need to learn to read. And Ms. Litchfield, has been dealing with a situation where we've really been talking about how do we ensure that happens, and do we need to have some other kind of behavior program that works with our youngest learners? We have grappled with that for a little while, and so I think those are some important things. But we'll go ahead and in my June report, of course, follow up even on the cell phones. Our high schools, it will be a big change for them about cell phones having to be put away, and we'll reiterate to parents that this is coming, and it did pass, and we're going to have to make some changes.
Mine's more of a commentary. The legislature saw fit to pass these bills because they felt it was in some ways enhancing the student experience. They will not have to be followed by anybody who receives the $10,000 voucher that they passed earlier. They're good enough for us. They're not good enough for everybody. So that's my little comment on that. And now we're up to goal setting.
Yes, so no presentation on this one, just in your board book. You have got just a quick reminder of what we went over at our goal setting time together, our special meeting. I've just re-put in here the scorecard. The areas highlighted in yellow are those 13 that are reflected in my superintendent evaluation. These would be coming before you for action on Monday night. So I just wanted to get them back in front of you tonight as well. And of course, again, we talked about this at the goal setting. This is our third year of this scorecard. It'll be time this coming school year. Dr. Miller's using the word recalibrate the long-range plan, so I'm trying to stick with that lingo. And then ultimately, that may change the scorecard for the following school year, and we would look at how that would change my evaluation. But no changes here from the ones highlighted in yellow from the past 2 years. And I'll take any questions on any of those if you have any.
All right. It's time for the Student Services Report. Mr. Kaj.
President Prosnick, School Board, Dr. Rapp. Last time we were here, we said we'd be doing updates as we go through this journey of pulling and building our transportation department. I have Dana Chandler here. She's going to take us through many of the slides. And so it's you.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Rapp. So I'll first start. It's kind of been a whirlwind of a month, and it feels like I was just here the other day, but we're already back again. So our update starts with our hiring process, and so in the last I think she's been here 2 weeks, I've hired an administrative assistant, which has been great. She was a long-tenured district employee who had left our district and now is back, and so we're excited that she's back with us. I'm going to give you some different numbers that are on this slide because I updated them while I was sitting listening to everything else. But it says up there 146 drivers and monitors are currently in the process of testing for pre-employment and alcohol drug testing. And then 47 are still in the background process. 49 have applied but not submitted their applications fully. I looked right before I stepped up here, and so we're actually at 187 drivers now that have applied, 97 monitors, and 8 sub-drivers. So, and I bet you about 38 of them are external, not in our district currently, but have driven for us at some point before and left because of different reasons. So we're getting too close to our goal of the 220 to 230 drivers for next school year. I started, I think, last meeting talking about us keeping TransFinder Pro, which is what we had currently been using for routing. And so during some of our change that's gone on, the team kind of all rallied together. TransFinder, our school bus logistics, who does it and will continue to do our routing. And we are actually going to be able to move forward with TransFinder Plus. So currently right now they are in the process of transferring and converting all of our data that is in the old system into the new one, which will give us a step ahead instead of it being maybe Christmas time where we're getting turn-by-turn directions for our drivers on our tablets that will be in the buses. We will be able to do that much sooner. So we'll start testing that and phasing it as soon as the routing is all complete and converted over. We've also purchased Zonar GPS software. That's the tracking piece that goes into the bus, and the piece for the software that allows us to connect our parent bus tracking app. And it also gives us telematics for our buses. So if there's something wrong with the bus, it will tell our maintenance team that there's something going on and that they need to look at the bus as well. We will continue to use the Here Comes the Bus app until we can switch over everything into, so once we get the turn-by-turn directions, we'll move to the Zonar and TransFinder parent bus app, but we will start back with Here Comes the Bus, which is what we were currently using, but it is being reconfigured. A few things that after talking to Dr. Rapp and realizing some of the issues that we were having, we're going to be using route numbers instead of asset numbers, which is what we were using, and the asset number is a number that's on the back of the bumper. The parents can't see it, so when the bus passes, and that's the way it was set up originally. So we are going to be resetting to the route numbers, so that'll be helpful for parents. Also, the GPS software that we'll be putting in and the hardware we'll be putting in will ping at a quicker rate. So currently, that parent tracking app pings every 2 to 3 minutes. Our new software will be pinging every 10 seconds. So they'll get, yes, it'll be more on time. And but we do still hope that we get into the other tracking app quicker because it's a better system just in general. Our Zonar GPS tablets that I'm talking about that the drivers will have on the buses, that they'll actually be using those for timekeeping. They'll clock in and out with them. They will take that onto the bus and it will go into, there's a stand that they'll put that in and it will give them the turn-by-turn directions. It also gives them student data so they'll know what students are at the stop locations. So those pieces have been ordered. They'll be installing those in the next 2 weeks. So we're getting prepared to take over the Mill Street and Colony location. They're going to continue to operate summer school out of Purnell. So we're going to be able to start shuttling buses in and out and start to get the work done on the vehicles. We will also be doing inspections of the buses as well when we go through that process. Our Zonar equipment that's also going to be added to the bus that allows us to do pre-trip and post-trip. There are electronic tag marks that are placed all over the critical points of the outside and inside of the bus. And so those will be placed in, and the drivers will be using their tablets to scan those points, and then they report any defects through their tablet. So good safety measures for us to know that our drivers are out actually physically looking at their bus. They know that, that if there's something wrong that they can put it into the tablet, and then our service technicians would be able to correct and fix those issues. We ordered 3 service trucks, I think my first or second day here. and believe it or not, they came like 4 days later. So they're here, and I have the keys for them, and they're getting logoed, and they're also going to have light bars put on them so that if they have to pull on the side of the road, that they'll have lights and some air compressors and some other equipment.
And like I said, in the last time we came forward and talked about hazardous routes, that's an ever-changing environment. And so we have identified another route or an area that will attend Lakeland Elementary south of Bel Air. And so that area in the red, though some of it is more than 2 miles away, some of it is closer than 2 miles, but Bel Air is considered a hazardous route. And the reason why we probably left this one off or we forgot about it is Matt Garrett is working with the municipalities about maybe repurposing some crossing guards, maybe that were located at different places of retired campuses and locations. And so we might have a few more that we might bring forward, or we might have some that we get to remove based on being able to repurpose crossing guards. Fingers crossed. Not making any promises, but this one will be added to Lakeland Elementary.
Of the last 2, I've talked about some of these things already. There are some indicators on the things that we will be phasing in over time. So our routing vendor, like I said, are working on the current bus routes now. We're going to be prepared and getting prepared in the next couple of months to start doing turn-by-turn directions. And that's after all the routes have been, really tested and we know that they're in good shape. It's going to be a training piece for our drivers. A lot of our folks are older, so, they're going to want to have enough training before we just throw that piece at them. And so it's going to take a little bit of time to get that done. We are looking at student RFID. It's a piece of what the purchase package, and so, but we are still investigating that piece as well to better track students when they get on and off the bus. And they would just they're already utilizing their ID badges that they currently have. Typically, elementary school students' cards are left on the bus for them so that they don't lose them, and the driver handles that when they get on and off. We are also in the process of purchasing identification signs that will go on the sides of the bus next to the route number that they'll see for the youngest riders. So they'll have a bracelet that is tagged on their backpack or somewhere that has, a pink flamingo on it, and there'll be a pink flamingo on the outside of the bus. It works really well for the first few weeks of school. The kids enjoy it, and I always get really good feedback from families. So I think they'll enjoy that this year, and it'll help us to keep from losing kids because that's what it's for. I'm still working with communications. I actually have a meeting tomorrow with them about updating our website and filming a safety video for our parents and for the students. And so we're going to get that done pretty quickly. I'm working still to hire an assistant director and maintenance technicians and a few other positions like field trip specialists and some of those folks that we need to hire on board, operations managers. And then I talked a little bit about evaluating the conditions of our buses and physical bus inspections so that we can make sure that the buses are in good shape when we get them back from our current contractor.
So that's all of the presentation we have at this time. I will add, though Dana is building our transportation department, she is the head of our transportation department, and it seems like this is all she's doing, but she has already been interacting with campuses, especially before school is out, and now with putting out little fires and working with Matt Garrett about where busing now will be staged, because some campuses might be getting more busing on campus, less buses on campus, and so she is really diving in and being a full-service administrator for all our campuses, even outside of building this big machine that she's putting together. With that, we'll take any questions.
Ms. Lasan.
Thank you again for your presentation, and God bless you for taking all this on. And I'm a little bit of a technology GPS kind of nerd, so I love hearing all that stuff. The one question that I did have was, I think it was on this slide. On that slide, you were talking about child accountability. Could you talk a little bit more about that, so they don't miss forgetful children like maybe mine that sometimes ride the bus and sometimes don't? So,
So do you want to, are you talking about the bracelets or the actual RFID cards?
Well,
You're talking
it was
about the
on
RFID.
one of your originals. Can you go back to this, I think it was on the slide when you were talking about the TransFinder.
I think you're talking about the RFID.
So it is an RFID, so that's what you meant.
It is.
Okay.
And they would use their student ID badges that they currently carry. And then they ping those, and the driver gets a notification that they're supposed to be on the bus, and they hear a certain sound, so they know that the child should be on the bus or shouldn't be on the bus.
Okay, meaning like they're on their right bus to go
Correct.
home on.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. All right. And so is that something like they just scan? Is like
It's a proximity
like
reader,
a-
just like you
oh, a
use.
proximity reader, okay.
When you get into the building or anywhere.
Okay. Okay.
And the hope is too that the campus would have access to that dashboard, and they would also be able to see student entering the bus or going on the bus, which then helps with camera footage and just tracking the student in multiple directions.
And we have cameras and we can go back, but that's kind of sometimes after the fact. And by the time we get into a camera, it will be really easy to see the RFID, to know that they've scanned on. And drivers are going to have to be trained to teach kids how to use them. But it works really well. I've been in districts that it works really well. My last district used them, and our students, our littlest, they were in a pouch, and the kids would just get on the bus. They'd grab their card out of the pouch and stick it back in the pouch and jump on. Okay. And so, but we didn't let them take them home because obviously they may not bring them back.
So would you use it with older kids, high school, middle
Yeah,
school?
absolutely. And honestly, for safety reasons, you would want to. I mean, like there are times where you might have a student that, looks like they're a high school age student and they're not, and they shouldn't even be on the bus. So it's important for us as we move forward and for the safety of the kids and the drivers that are already on board.
Okay, thanks.
Ms. Alcatab?
I just wanted to thank you for all the work that you've been putting into this, because I know it is not an easy feat, and everything that you've talked about and all the great things that you're putting into place to ensure the safety and security of all of our students, and the communication. That's been the biggest thing that the board has heard, is the buses are not arriving. We don't know where the bus is. We don't know where our kid is, those kinds of things. And it seems like you're listening to the community, you're listening to the schools, and ensuring that we're covering all of those missing things that have been there in the past to ensure that we are providing the best possible service. Absolutely. And so I really do appreciate you, because you did enter LASD with your feet running. There was not even a chance to put your feet on the ground. Yes. And thank you. Just thank you for all those things.
Ms. Sells?
Yeah, I wanted to say also, I asked you tonight, I said, how's it going? And you said busy, and I said, well, good. Because you were really doing the work, and like she was saying, so keep that answer going till we get all this going. But the little things that you were talking about, that they would go on the outside of the bus, how are those being used also, that a driver has to walk to the back of the bus? Is there going to be one in the back of the bus at the end of the day that they have to make sure that there's not a kid? Because I know a kid getting off is horrible, and we've had that situation, and we've worked through that. But also, you hear news reports across the country, child's been left on the bus for 5 hours or whatever. So are we using that technology also to?
We already have that technology. So we have, it's called Child Check. But it still comes with its faults as well. So a driver has to be trained properly. But yes, if they have to walk to the back of the bus, turn the alarm off so that it'll make the horn start honking, and it won't stop honking until they've turned it off. But you still have to check. You can walk to the back of the bus all day long. If you're not looking under the seats in the proper places, you're not going to see a sleeping child that's underneath, and they'll get underneath the seats and next to the wheel well, especially when it's cold outside and they want to get warm. And so it's a training issue still, though. I mean, all the technology in the world might not fix that, but it's definitely something that we need to discuss for sure with all of our new drivers. So,
Thank you. I have one question, which is best case scenario. What is the timeline from the time I apply to be a bus driver to the time I get hired?
Right now.
Right now.
We are. I think I pushed through 49 hires today. Me and my administrative assistant. But we are taking a little bit of time to do this just because they all applied at once. So, with 200 people and then there have been issues. We've had to go back and have people that thought they applied but didn't apply and process those kind of things. But from the start to finish, it's probably been 2 weeks at least. So not bad, and considering that they really don't have to be on board yet, and we have a little bit of time. It hasn't been too terrible for them, but we are still processing every day. I sat at the Mill Street location all day today, just collecting credentials, because drivers have to have, their TEA cards, medical certifications, all those things that we need to be able to see before we can say, yes, you're good to go. And now I'm hitting the button and submitting.
I will be remiss without saying Melissa Cobb and the HR team has been tremendous with onboarding this whole new department. And not only references, think about an employee, you got references, and then you have the background checks. And then you have the discussion after all of it is done to make sure we have the right people in an LISD shirt serving our district. So it's bringing it in-house is very important, and that we're trying to treat it as such.
Dr. Taylor?
I'm sorry, I had a question, and you kind of touched on it. I was wondering about the timeline because I was doing the math of kind of where you were and where you wanted to be, and you had mentioned you have a little bit of time. When do they need to be on board, I guess, at a final date so they have enough time? I'm assuming there's some training or...
Yes.
So what's that final date?
They still belong to Texas Central until July 31st.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
So we have a little bit of time, to get where we need to be, but they're very anxious.
Okay.
And they want to know where they're at
Right.
and know their pay rates and all those things that they're kind of waiting for. So we're trying to process them quicker and get them through the process. But it's, and I think Melissa could tell you, I think there are 21 steps. There are 21 steps from the time they start their application until I can recommend hire, and we, onboard them and get them all the way through.
Gotcha. Okay. And maybe training is not that important because they've already been driving. So some of them have already been driving. And then my other question was related to, I wanted to say I've never been so excited to receive a transportation report. I think just everything that you mentioned has, sounds great to me for sure. I did have another question, but now I forgot it. I always do that I forgot. It was around the hiring process. I may have to email you because I can't remember.
I have one more. So you had said for the term-by-term process, originally December was what you were thinking, and now you're thinking it's going to be sooner.
It will be sooner.
So what's your best crystal ball guesstimate on that?
Probably 2 months. 2 months after school starts. I think we could start.
October?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not holding you to it. I was just asking. I'm
just
not gonna...
get everybody on the bus first and get them to and from school on time, and then we'll hit that. I would love for them to have them day one, but I'll be honest. It's been a process just to get everybody just processed through the application process. So, as quick as I can, but without too many hiccups.
I appreciate the effort. You're good. Dr. Taylor.
I'm sorry, I remember my question. It was about, I think you kind of touched on it, where there were 49 applications where they had applied, but it wasn't fully. Is someone following up, I guess?
We are.
Okay,
yes.
Got it. I thought you had touched on that.
And HR has been very helpful. Barbara Lau has done a lot of that work for me, so she's been super helpful and gone in and emailed folks. And I'll be honest, Texas Central has been pretty helpful in that respect too, because we haven't been able to communicate really well with the drivers because we didn't have all their information, and it was hard to get their information. And so they've been able to send out text messages and reminders to folks, so that they can, do what they need to do and get back on board and get their stuff taken care of. So.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you all so very much. Next up is the finance report with Mr. Ware. First up is the 2023 Bond Construction Program, INS funds.
Randy's coming up to share the construction program update.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Rapp, and the board. So tonight on our 2023 bond program update, we have several GMPs to talk about. So for all of these, the following projects were all advertised and bid out to subcontractors by their respective construction manager at risk firm per Chapter 2269 of the Government Code. Each CMAR has evaluated and scoped their bids and provided a guaranteed maximum price to the district. Recommendations to approve these GMPs will be presented to the board as consent items next Monday night on June 9th. So to start with, we'll talk about the Colony High School. If you remember, we did an early GMP package for this project, so work is going on this summer at the Colony High School. This is the remainder of the project. Glenn Partners is the architect. Reader is the CMAR. The GMP is $57,589,562. It's within the overall project budget. That number includes the early package as well as the remainder, so we're just tracking kind of one number from here on out. The total project will take place summer 25, 26, 27, as well as the school years in between. So a big project out there. Will be out there for a while. Our next project here is the new transportation center. So for the fine folks that you just heard from, we're trying to build a new building for them. Huckabee is the architect and Glyden Industries is the CMAR. Our GMP is $14,964,470. It does exceed our overall project budget by $1.88 million. This project does include the necessary facilities and parking lots for in-house transportation management, as well as our child nutrition cooler, freezer, and storage. The good news here, we have land sale proceeds, we have bond project savings, and we have bond interest earnings that are all available to cover this overage. You'll hear that a few times tonight. This project is slated to begin this summer with our target substantial completion of August 1st, 2026. So we had previously shown an image of kind of the exterior of the building, so I decided to bring a site plan tonight to kind of show the location there. The big box in the top left corner is our West Side Aquatic Center, just so you know kind of where this is located back behind that facility. The parking lot directly north of our transportation center there is actually shared with Tech West facility. So you can see a lot of parking is required for a transportation center like this. There's a fuel system, obviously, and I mentioned already the food service equipment that's a part of that building as well. Our next one here is guaranteed maximum price for the district-wide generators and radio system UPS project. Stantec is the architect. Reader is the CMAR. Our GMP is $4,989,070. It's within our overall project budget. So most of these materials are long lead items, so we won't see really any work going on this summer as we're waiting for materials to show up. We will start that work during the school year, obviously with no disruption to classes. We'll work around class schedules. The largest portion of this work would take place next summer and be complete by August 1st of 2026. Our next one here is the Lewisville High School Scene Shop addition and band lot renovations. Huckabee is the architect and Reader is the CMAR. Our GMP is $6,158,306. It does exceed our overall project budget by $2.8 million. Again, we have land sale proceeds, bond project savings, and bond interest earnings available to cover that overage. Project would begin this summer. Our target substantial completion date would be April of 26. So very difficult to read here, but I do have a snapshot of the plan there. Basically, we have an expansion of the scene shop, which provides equity with our other high schools. Because of where this is located on the building, on the back side of the auditorium at LHS, we're really kind of landlocked there. There's not a lot of opportunity for any other location. But that's a great location, and because of that, we do have a loading dock and a ramp for egress out the back side of the building there. The stage storage is improved. There are 2 classrooms, as we spoke about with our One Vision task force. Really, the main scope of this project was a new scene shop and 2 classrooms, so those are in there. There's also renovation of some existing space, as you'll see with that corridor there, and improvements to the back side of the auditorium. Our next project is the LHS Harmon Black Box Theater conversion. Huckabee is the architect. Reader is the CMAR. Our GMP is $4,044,747. It does exceed our overall project budget by $1.17 million. Again, we have the sources of funding: land sale proceeds, bond project savings, and bond interest earnings are available to cover. This project would begin this summer, and our target substantial completion, again, is March of 2026. So with this project here, the Black Box Theater is actually in the existing band hall at LHS Harmon. The adjacent spaces around that band hall are used for support, such as storage, our sound light booth, our green room, and a teacher office. Our public spaces here include a lobby and restrooms, very similar to all of our other Black Box Theaters in the district. Those can be sectioned off for after-hours events, so people can't just walk through the whole building there. They can come specifically for an event, and it's secure. And the old theater space becomes offices for the SRO, for the speech department, diagnosticians, art conference room, et cetera. So a lot of those folks had been using kind of this band hall area currently, and so we're renovating that old theater. So on the top left corner of that image there, that's the old theater classroom space, and we're renovating that for those offices, for that location. Our next project here is a CSP, competitive seal proposal. This is our Hebron High School traffic signal. So this project was bid out as a competitive seal proposal, again, per Chapter 2269 of the Government Code. 2 responses were received. On the bid tab, you'll only see one. One was incomplete. They didn't turn in pretty much any of the, they turned in a price, basically. With a competitive seal proposal, there's a big proposal aspect of that, which we asked for a lot of questions and references and all kinds of things. So one of the vendors turned in a complete package, and that's what you'll see on the bid tab. Obviously, that bid has been evaluated, and a recommendation to award will be presented next Monday night at the June 9th meeting. The recommended pricing, including a contingency of $90,000, exceeds the overall project budget by $298,000. This contingency allows for any unforeseen conditions and additional requirements from the city. So this project is actually in review right now with the City of Carrollton for permitting. They're on their second round of submittals now. We do anticipate a couple of changes that they're going to make, so this contingency allows us to be able to make those changes. Again, land sale proceeds, bond project savings, and bond interest earnings are available to cover that overage. Okay, so this next project here is kind of a new one. Our 2023 bond first sale furniture moves and purchases. So with our 5 retirement campuses, as you're aware, new furniture was purchased for a lot of those campuses. There are furniture moves and purchases that will be required as those campuses close this summer. So savings will ultimately result for the 2023 bond program with furniture, utilizing the new furniture from the schools being retired. So our needs fall into 3 categories. Our first category are basically schools that recently received new furniture. So let's say they had a 20-year life cycle maintenance and repair project. They got all new furniture, and now they just need some additional matching pieces purchased for the added teachers and classrooms. So an example would be like Bluebonnet Elementary, right? They just got their recent 20-year. They're getting some additional teachers and students, and so we need to purchase them some new furniture that matches. This furniture can be purchased with remaining 2023 bond first sale year 1 furniture replacement funds. That was really our big project last summer, and we do have available money there. Our second category, we have Donald, Hebron Valley, Heritage, and Rockbrook that are all scheduled for 20-year life cycle maintenance repair with new furniture in the next few years. We do propose moving existing furniture from, so Creekside would go to Donald, Highland Village would go to Heritage, Polster would go to Hebron Valley, and Garden Ridge would go to Rockbrook Elementary. In all of these moves, if you look at those floor plans, pretty much every one of the schools I just mentioned, the furniture we're moving from is smaller than the campus we're going to. And so additional furniture would need to be purchased to fit the school and would also match the type of furniture that's coming with it. Again, funds are already budgeted in the upcoming 20-year life cycle maintenance and repair projects for these schools. So, Donald Elementary, Heritage, Hebron Valley, and Rockbrook, they all have 20-year life cycle maintenance and repair projects in this bond. We would have had furniture funds earmarked for each one of those in this bond. We will need to tap into that to purchase our additional furniture. Because funds are tied to future bond sales, we do recommend using another funding source for now. And so what I mean by that is, as you're aware, we're about to do our second bond sale. Some of these, take Donald Elementary, for example, would have been a probably a third bond sale, maybe a fourth bond sale. We don't have those funds in the bank right now, so we need to use another funding source for now, but we will ultimately realize savings as a whole through the whole bond program. Hopefully that makes sense. Just a cash flow thing. Okay, our third category, these are campuses that do not have new furniture yet. They may or may not have a 20-year life cycle maintenance repair in this bond, and they need smaller amounts of furniture for the new teachers and students. So we propose utilizing the existing furniture from Donald, Hebron Valley, Heritage, and Rockbrook Elementary to accommodate. And then the 2023 bond first sale project savings could be used to cover these moving costs, right? So we have the furniture, we're just moving it. In each of these instances, if a campus is getting a 20-year life cycle management repair, like say in a couple of years, they will get new furniture at that time. So this just gets them the furniture they need for the teachers and students that are arriving for next year. All three of these categories will require contract and moving services. I mean, this is way more work than anybody in-house can handle, so we are definitely working with our partners, our vendors, to help with moving. Our current furniture vendors are able to provide this service. And so we really look to, we're going to speak again about this one later tonight as an action item in order to get this kind of moving, right? So every day that we can save by putting a purchase order on, we'll hopefully get some furniture in time for August. So, okay, our next one here, this is kind of similar. This is First Sale Polzer Elementary Playground relocation. So included in the 2023 bond was a new playground for Polzer. We installed that last summer. That playground can be relocated using the existing parts and components. Relocation does still incur cost for disassembly, moving, and reassembly, but it is a savings from buying new. The turf that's picked up from Polzer, we've talked about that a couple times in the past. It can't really be reused at the new playground location, but it can be reused for other things in the district, such as batting cages, bullpens, things like that. So we can definitely reuse that turf at other areas in the district. So we took a look at our campuses and playground needs across all of our campuses. In Hebron Valley Elementary, they're getting the largest number of students from Polzer. The Polzer Elementary playground colors are a good match for the Hebron Valley school colors. So we recommend moving Polzer Elementary playground to Hebron Valley Elementary. We do anticipate a cost of $375,000 to perform this work, which does include a new turf surface and the concrete curbing around that turf surface. Hebron Valley Playground is an older style of playground. It's coming upon 10 years old, and they would have needed a playground shade structure as they do not currently have one. So this will provide savings to taxpayers addressing future bond needs by moving this playground now. Homestead received a new playground in 2022. So a portion of the ALS program from Polzer is relocating to Homestead. So additional enhanced accessibility playground equipment and a new play surface is needed for Homestead Elementary. We would anticipate a cost of $300,000 to perform this work, which would include new turf surface and the concrete curbing and the additional equipment. So this is very similar to what we did at Forest Vista Elementary last summer. The 2023 bond first sale year one playground and shade structure replacement project is still open, so we have not closed that one yet. Project code is listed there. Child's Play is the vendor on that project. And so what we would recommend is that a change order to this project be approved so that equipment can be ordered immediately for both Homestead and Hebron Valley for this summer with that existing project. And then finally, the shade structure from Garden Ridge can also be relocated to another location. As you remember, we currently are in design on the second sale playground shade structure project, and we are working to identify a suitable location for that existing shade structure. We don't have that location yet, but we already have funds within that project that can be used. Obviously, it would be a cost savings, right, because we're not purchasing, we're just relocating. So a consent item for all the playground-related scope discussed here will be presented to the board next Monday night. So I apologize for it's a lot. There's a lot of moving pieces, but this really is a good news story. We're trying to really be good stewards and reuse equipment that we already have. So our next steps, everything that I spoke about tonight is going to be a consent item next Monday night. So I won't go through the whole list here, but all the GMPs we talked about, the traffic signal, the playground, and the furniture will be presented again next Monday night.
Are there any questions? Dr. Taylor?
Oh, good. Okay. So just wanted to point out, and I think you mentioned it a few times, there were a lot of questions from the community as we consolidated schools about, we purchased a new playground or there was new furniture. So again, and you've done a good job of it, wanted to point out for the community that we are being good stewards of your money by relocating the furniture, relocating the playground, and the shade structures. Also will result, as you mentioned, in future savings where, if some of these schools were coming up for these items that they've already been done. So there's no spend or, future bond sale related to these items. So I just wanted to point that out. My question was around the furniture moves, and there was a slide where it looked like Garden Ridge furniture was going to two places. I don't know if that's a...
that was a mistake. It's been changed now. Yes, ma'am.
To Creekside, because I think you mentioned Creekside.
Yes,
I just
ma'am.
wanted to confirm.
Yeah, we had Garden Ridge listed in two locations, but it's Creekside goes to Donald.
Gotcha.
And then Garden Ridge goes to Rob Brook.
Okay. Only question I had.
And we really tried to think through where the majority of the students were going, that they've had new furniture, so that they would experience new furniture in their new location. In the colony, because students are going to so many different schools in the colony, there are some schools where they haven't had their new furniture purchased, so that it's a little bit different there, but BBO hadn't had their new furniture either. So we just really tried to make a match where kids that had new furniture, that where they're going, they will have it when they get there.
Dr. Barker?
Thank you, Madam President. So my question has to do with the new transportation center because, as my fellow board members and some know, I spend a lot of time in that parking lot. There's been some concerns that have been expressed to me of people that are there quite frequently about the traffic flow of buses and where they're going to come out of that parking lot. Duncan Lane's not a very large street, and if you have a lot of buses on Duncan Lane, how are people going to get in and out of all of that? So do we have that figured out yet? Is that at a later stage? How's that going to work?
Great question. Yeah, we do have that figured out. So any bus that's traveling west in the district would go out to Duncan Lane, up to the light at 3040 and turn left. Any bus that's turning east would have the opportunity to go up through our parking lot to 3040 and turn right to go. The traffic flows around the west side of the Westside Aquatic Center. So there's a drive, I don't know, it's not on there anymore, but there's the drive that comes out of our new parking lot, comes on the left-hand side of the Westside Aquatic Center. The west side goes up by Harmon, takes that road over to Duncan, and goes out. The good news here is a lot of the bus traffic is not the same time as events, right, that are taking place in those buildings. So you've got buses that are leaving very early in the morning, and then returning after kind of school begins, and then they leave in early afternoon. So
I would just be very cautious and aware and watch that situation, especially because with Harmon there, they have a lot of bus traffic frequently throughout the day. And with, students traveling to and from the tech centers and the aquatic centers, there's movement all the time there. So just something to be aware of and to be watching, and people are watching and seeing what's going to happen there.
Sure.
Current news is that we're going to see tariffs on aluminum and steel products. I added it up, and we're $6.8 million over what we had estimated. So where are we on those other projects that might require those products? I know it's a guess.
That have not been approved yet?
Yeah.
So the good news is since we don't have a July board meeting, June was our target for really all the rest of them. There's really only one main project I can think of that we haven't brought, and that's the last phase of our district-wide security project. Remember, we did an early package. We're underway now with the elementary schools. So that one's really door-related, so not a lot of aluminum and steel there. So I'm not really anticipating a major impact from that new tariff, but we'll see what next week holds.
All right. Moving on.
Okay.
I think you're up again.
There we go. Okay. So now it's time for our 2024 bond update, and I only have one item tonight. This is a change order to the CSP 3311-25 high school turf baseball and softball fields. So on this project, McAdams is the engineer. Paragon Sports Constructors is the contractor. The project pricing was approved in April and came in $4.8 million under the approved budget. That's the great news story here. The approval at that time included a 10% contingency that totaled $1.18 million. The project was designed on a very aggressive schedule to ensure work could begin this summer. Not only that work could begin this summer, but we could get the contractors on board to make sure that we were on their schedule to start this summer. So while the final geotechnical reports from all 9 field locations were not available at the time of bid, we did feel at that time that our project contingency of $1.18 million would be sufficient. However, now that we have all the reports, the initial subsurface soil conditions came back showing extensive soil remediations needed at all but one location. So that's 8 fields. And so when you start multiplying that times 8, it adds up pretty quick. We are still working on the final soil remediation solution. But initial reports we are using right now have our worst case scenario. They show that much more contingency would be needed. Since there is no July board meeting, we want to stay on schedule. And so what we are requesting is authorization to use the remainder of the funds within the project budget as contingency for this project as we work out this soil remediation. We are confident that we can improve upon that worst case scenario, and I can say that with confidence this evening because we actually have got a second opinion now. We have another company that's come out, has done new borings, and are doing their recommendations now, and they are less than what the first company had. So we will approve upon the worst case scenario, but as I mentioned, no board meeting in July. We're bringing consent item with the worst case scenario. The good news is any unused contingency funds will be returned to the district, so it's not wasted money. It's just we need whatever's available to make sure that we can get this done. Again, this recommendation will be presented as a consent item next Monday night. And this approval will give us the best opportunity to get the fields completed in time for that 2026 season. Our next step with that, again, would be a consent item next Monday night, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on this one.
Any comments or questions? Bree.
All right, thank you.
Proposed budget amendment for the general fund for the fiscal year ending August 31st in 2025. Mr. Rare.
Thank you. As was discussed earlier in the student transportation update, as the district transitions to managing its own transportation program, there's a need to purchase equipment, supplies, to begin the startup process. And so we'll be bringing forward to you budget amendment number 3, which increases function 34, transportation, in the general fund by $1,120,000 for startup costs to include supplies, parts, technology equipment, bus inspections, uniforms, and bus equipment. This amendment will be a reduction to fund balance, and we will continue to monitor this throughout the summer to see what the actual expenditures are, to see if there's a need for possibly an additional amendment in August.
Any comments or questions? All right. Fiscal year 25 budget projection update, M&O funds.
So this continues the update that we've been bringing the previous few months on the fiscal year 25. And so we'll continue to update our revenue assumptions and our expenditure assumptions. This month, these are based on actuals through April. And so those were used to come up with our fiscal year 25 projection. The only change on this slide from previous months is we've updated the year-end estimated ADA, which is now showing $44,545. That was 20 higher than what we projected last month. Then these next few slides will do a comparison of the adopted budget versus our current projection for this year. The first one is looking at local revenue. So for our total local revenue, we're currently projecting to come in about $2.7 million under budget. The majority of that would be through our tax collections, and of that, it's from our prior year tax collections. Our current year tax collections were very strong. We're about 99.7, but in our previous year tax collections, that's bringing us down a little bit. One other thing I did want to highlight on this local revenue is the interest earnings. You'll see that we had very strong interest rates for this past year, so we're actually projecting much higher than what we budgeted. But I did want to highlight that right now we're projecting $11.7 million. In fiscal year 24, that was $14.1 million. So we are starting to see that amount go down, and so that is highlighted as well in the fiscal year 26 presentation. For state revenue, the biggest difference there is in our foundation school program, and that results from both a lower enrollment in ADA than we were projecting, as well as higher T2 values, drove that difference down. So we're looking at state revenue being down about $10 million from what was projected. And on federal revenue, we are looking at $1.3 million under what we projected or what we budgeted. But I did want to highlight that at this time, we're using for SHARS and impact aid. We're actually using our projection as what our year-to-date actuals were through April. And so there is a good chance that we'll receive the entire impact aid, but until we do, with all the questions that were surrounding, the Department of Education, I just wanted to be very conservative and keep that amount as to what we've actually received through April. So overall for revenue, we were at 97, or right now we're projecting about 97.4% of our budget. So that we budgeted $556 million. We're currently projecting $542 million. Now on the expenditure side, just to update our projections from last month, we are currently looking at a year-end recapture payment of about $13 million, which is very close to what we budgeted. Payroll is tracking really well with the overall budget. And then we do have significant savings in our non-payroll account, and I'll go through that in the next slide. So you'll see here, payroll, as I mentioned, is tracking very close to the adopted budget. But then we do see some savings. The two biggest categories are contracted services and then supplies and materials. And that has been the case probably for the last few years as well. Those are generally the areas that we see the biggest budget savings. And so right now we're projecting expenditure savings of $18.7 million. Included in the contracted services, we're at this time projecting almost $2 million less in utilities. But as I mentioned, we'll continue to track that throughout the remainder of the summer and update that again as we bring that information to you in August. Then I previously mentioned the June budget amendment that will factor into our overall budget. But I did want to mention that the projections on what we think that we're going to spend on transportation have been factored into our year-end projections. Expenditures have been included. So that brings our general operating projection for the year. The adopted budget included a projected deficit of $4.5 million. Right now, we're projecting a deficit, just a slight deficit of $250,000. But we did have the Wager Road land sale during this fiscal year, and those funds were free and clear, and so they have been put into the general fund. So that would bring our year-end general operating budget projection to a surplus of $3.2 million. And so that would be a difference, a positive difference of $7.7 million. One thing, there's a note on there that this projection does include our T2 values as we submitted them, the corrected values to the comptroller. And so we're very hopeful and confident that we will receive those corrected values. But until they're actually confirmed, we're taking that stance here, but that could change if they don't come through with the correction. And we've included a fund balance projection. So you'll see that we ended last year, our 25% goal was $125 million. We ended with $141 million was our fund balance. Right now, we're projecting for fiscal year 25, 25% of expenditure target would be $125 million, and our fund balance at the end of the year would be $144 million.
So, Board, one of the things that I wanted to share here was information for our community about S&P, which is one of our ratings firms. They, a couple of years ago, had given our school district a negative financial outlook because we were paying for recurring expenditures out of fund balance and had dropped dangerously close to fall below 25% of expenditures, which would violate your policy. And we know also the reason that school districts have fund balances is in order to deal with cash flow, because you don't get the majority of your cash flow at the beginning of the school year, and you're still having to have school and pay people and operate. And with no increase to the basic allotment, of course, we had provided raises to retain all of our staff over those many years, which is what was causing us to drop our fund balance. From fiscal year 20 to fiscal year 23, you can see we took $49 million out of fund balance during those years to try to pay our staff. And as we'll hear from Ms. Cobb, too, we spend a significant portion on benefits for staff as well. We were able to successfully, through many hard decisions that have been made together as a strong team of 8, we've been able to get our budget turned back in a positive, stable direction through changes to the middle school schedule. The school site closure conversation with the ratings agency was quite significant, and they could see the result of staffing reductions, significant budget reductions, along with central office reductions and these other items as being a strong commitment to stabilizing this school district financially, even in the wake of very uncertain legislative outcomes. And so as a result, I was very pleased to alert you all before we went out for our bond sale last week that we had been revised from a negative outlook to a stable outlook. We were affirmed in our strong credit rating, and as a result, we were able to borrow debt at a very great true interest cost, and we were very desirable. Our bonds were very desirable when they went out on the market. We had a lot of varied interest this bond sale, and so that is a huge success story, and I will do my very best to tell that to our staff as I communicate with them in June, that it's been a hard couple of years, but this stable outlook is really important for borrowing debt at a good, reasonable rate for our tax. And so finally, on the last slide, we will close out our fiscal year expenses. I will continue to update you all throughout the month. The remainder of June and July, even though we won't have a board meeting in July, we'll continue to keep you updated. We'll continue to monitor those T2 values. We'll reclassify capital-like expenditures with land sale proceeds. We'll finalize our revenue projections. We'll, of course, maintain that minimum focus on 25% of our expenditures in fund balance. And again, that helps ensure a strong fund balance that we're able to operate when cash flow is low. And with that, we'll turn it over for any questions and discussion.
Dr. Taylor?
I want to start with wow, but I feel like that's not what I should be using. But seriously, I think the staff and the board, should feel really good, even though it was painful to talk about cuts. I remember coming, saying some things I guess last year. It feels like it was longer, and how we were in such a dire situation as far as our fund balance, getting dangerously low. There was talk of, bankruptcy and all of that, and that this board and the team of 8, I like the way you put it, stuck together to ensure the financial stability of this district. That to me is cause for celebration, even before you get to the land sales, to know that the budget, and the projection was really managed to zero, because the $250,000 deficit is within a gnat's hair of
Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Thank you.
Ned's eyelash. I see I got it wrong. But I think, I feel really, really good about that. And, we really have been great stewards. And if you look at where we were even just a year ago or 2 years ago, where we are today, and then the outlook being provided is just further confirmation of the hard work that the team of 8, along with the supporting cast, did to make this happen. Again, I know it was painful, it wasn't easy, but I think it's important to note this board, this team of 8, the supporting cast, we were not going to let the district fail. And so I think that, this shows our commitment and what we've done there. I did have a question on one of the assumptions related to the T2 values, and I apologize because I know you've said it in multiple slides, but I can't remember. When is that final? When do we expect that to be finalized?
Initially, I'd heard it was going to be September.
Gotcha.
Before we'd received that. After talking with Denton Appraiser, I believe it might be a little bit earlier.
Okay.
So I've been following up on that just to see, and I'll continue to do that in hopes that we'll get that before year end.
Okay. I just, again, want to just say what amazing work that put us here, even in a situation where we weren't being fully funded. We were, talking about needing funding, and we still do. I don't want to put that out there. We still do. But just an amazing job. And I, feel like it feels weird not to come to you guys with like the doom and gloom today. So at any rate, and I haven't even talked, we haven't gotten to 26, but 25, widgets, they didn't really matter. So anyway, thank you.
Dr. Bonner.
Dr. Taylor, I think that doom and gloom is on the way, but it's not here yet. So, I'm just wondering, Lori, on the communication out, thinking about what Standard & Poor 500 means, Standard & Poor rather, means to a person that maybe comes to this meeting every once in a while because they're agitated about something, right? And so I know also when we did our bond sale the other day, the real terms of what it resulted in was a 4.2% financing. Recently bought a little car for the 17-year-old that, sleeps in the other bedroom, and that's at 8. So, maybe some real-life examples like that, from a consumer standpoint, might be something good to communicate to the taxpayer. Because 4.2, I would take a whole lot of that today if I could get it, right? And so, and I think, and this is a silly example, but when we were talking, it's almost like your FICO score, right? We're up there at 800. And a negative would be like it's 600. And so our bond rating and the resultant finance rates would be much higher than 4.2. So I think that's important to know. And Sheila, I appreciate the Nat's eyelash reference. It made me think about Coach Newby in middle school. And we cut that budget finer than a frog haircut 4 ways. It really did. Great job on that. And then I'll close with being thankful for our staff and our parents because, it's real easy to be over here and make all these cuts, and we wail and moan about it, and it's change, and nobody likes change except wet babies. But I'm gonna turn the button in a minute, Stacy. But really, where the rubber met the road on that was in our campuses. For the staff and the program changes that kids and parents endured. And so I'm just thankful that our staff stayed with us, right? And our parents still voted in the bond issue in the face of all that. So thank you very much to our communities.
Yeah, I was going to piggyback on that and say that I thank the teachers for showing up this year. And I thank them for showing up and for standing with us when we made the cuts, even though they were hard, but they felt them. And I'm grateful, Dr. Rapp, for your leadership in being methodic and using a process and a procedure to make these cuts. It wasn't just like we, there was thoughtfulness and there was intentionality behind them, and I know that some departments certainly felt it more than others, and we worked as hard as we could to keep it out of the classroom. But I will say this, I don't know what's left to cut. And I looked at that revenue line, and a lot of that revenue line is pool rental. We're not going to have pool rental next year because we're only going to have one pool open. So when I know we're getting ready to get there, but I'm grateful for this year and for where we've ended up, because we've certainly ended up in a really good position. And I do think it is why we saw so many new people come into the deal as well for our bond sale. We saw several new players, and they were financial institutions, which was interesting to see, which is kind of new in the last few years. But those companies don't give you a good rating with a good outlook just because they like you. Those are people who are just interested in making money. And they see us as a good investment. And I would say that we are a good investment because of the decisions that we've made. But we are a good investment because of the people who work here. And we are a good investment for the people who show up here. And we are a good investment for our students. And we are a good investment for our community and our families who choose LISD. And now I am not going to forget the consent agenda preview.
All right, thank you. Beginning on page 134 of the board book is the consent agenda preview for highlighting major items of interest that will be brought to the board on June 9th for their approval. Most of these that are listed are renewals of annual purchases that have been made in the past. There's just one item that I did want to highlight because it slightly changes from what you'd seen in a previous year, but that's the renewal of AVID. And so at this time, it's anticipated that the AVID program will not be offered at the 9 middle school campuses for next year. If approved, the AVID program will continue at the 8 high school campuses at an estimated cost of $160,636. You'll see that item as well as the others next week for your approval.
Any comments or questions? All right. Now it's time for the 2025-26 property taxes, tax compression, and fiscal year general operating budget and compensation update. Mr. Ware.
So, and some of this will be a repeat of what you saw last month as far as the estimated values go, and because we won't receive those updated values until obviously July when we get those certified. But I did just want to continue to highlight the April property value that we're seeing and how we use that April property value to calculate at this time what we think our estimated certified value will be. Just looking at historical trends, and then using that estimated certified value to come up with an estimated T2 value. And so there's a lot of estimation going on still at this time, but as I said, we'll have certified values in July, and so we'll be able to use the certifieds to then calculate what we think our T2 value will be. This month we included a tax rate history. So the board can see just where we've been since 2019 for both the M&O and the INS tax rate. We included 2026 projected tax rate, and that's based on what we think our estimated values will be. And so right now we're looking at projected compression of just under 2 cents on the M&O side. And currently we're showing the INS side tax rate the same. And so that would lower our tax rate from 1.1178 to 1.1002 for next year. And, this will be finalized or updated once we get our certified values in July, and then we'll send those off to TEA, and they'll provide us at that time our maximum compressed rate that we'll use for the tax rate adoption in August. Things that we're continuing to consider for next year, we'll continue to have a decline in enrollment. Most of these items we discussed last month as well, but continuing to look for compensation increases to remain competitive, tracking any legislative session funding changes, and then looking at where we think our T2 value will end up. And so at this time, the revenue assumptions are the same as what we had last month. This next slide we had previous months, just showing declining enrollment in ADA since last year, and then the overall funding impact of that decline. And so for us, that would be a loss of state funding of just under $16 million, while we'd also see recapture payment going up about $1.5 million. The expenditure assumptions at this time, they're still tracking to where we had them in April, with recapture payment of $14.3 million. Obviously, that could get changed depending on House Bill 2 and what comes out of that, but we'll update that in future months. And so, as we work over the next few months on finalizing the budget, we'll take a more detailed look at it, and that's what we bring to the board in August. We bring it by function level, and that's what's required to be adopted, is by function level. But we did want to provide a little bit of information on how we compare with others on the functional level. And so, we'll be able to, as I said, update this more going forward. But right now, this is taking a look at 2023-24 data. And this is through PEAMS, and it was actually compiled by Macero for us. And so this is taking a look at the 25 largest Texas public schools for 2023-24. And so on the left, you'll see the total enrollment for the year. And so we ranked 18th in the state. Next to that is the M&O funding per student. So our M&O funding per student was $9,975, which was 10th place. And you'll see the peer average was a little bit lower than that at $9,703. But when we look at the expenditure side, I wanted to highlight a few expenditures of note. And so the first one is student instruction, which would be function 11. For that year, we spent $6,678 per student on student instruction, which well exceeded the peer average of $6,260 and put us third out of 25 districts throughout the state. Next to that is the guidance and counseling services, which would be function 31. We spent $562 per student. Peer average was $459, and so that placed us fifth out of 25 districts for 2023-24 for how much we spent on guidance and counseling. Both of those are very positive. I mean, if there's areas where you want to be spending your resources, those are definitely areas that you want to be exceeding your average. These next two would be areas that you would actually want to be spending less than your peers. And so the first one is school leadership. The peer average is $737 per student. We're at $716. And then the next comparison is for general administration. There's oftentimes a lot of discussion, whether that's in Austin, about how much districts are spending on administration. And so you look at both school leadership and general administration. But for just general administration here, which is function 41, for that year, the district spent $216 per student. The peer average was $278. So that put us 21st out of 25 of the largest districts in Texas. So spending significantly less in administration than our peers. So now as we continue to look at fiscal year 26, and we shared this information last month as well on how we get to what we would project to be our beginning budget deficit. So looking at our current fiscal year 25 budget deficit of $4.5 million, how much funding we'll lose because of a loss in enrollment, increase in property value. Talked about last month that we were looking to reduce our SHARS revenue and our interest revenue to get them closer to actuals for this year. And with interest, knowing that each year, as rates continue to go down, we're going to see revenue go down. Increase to recapture payment. There's an increase to set up our transportation budget for next year. And then a small increase to set up our substitute budget. And then we would have an increase in property tax collections. And so that would give us a projected beginning fiscal year deficit of $24.5 million. I've shared here the latest House Bill 2 funding projections that we received from both TASBO and Moat Casey, and so you can see that they're significantly different, and it's based on the information that they used for their projections. For TASBO, they were basing our projection on property value growth of 5.5%, which I think is a bit higher than where we will be, but that just to show you where that would come in. And so it shows what our tax rate would be, which would be, a little bit lower than what we're projecting. And that would be an increase in funding of $29.3 million. Moat Casey, we received their update a little bit after the TASBO one, and what they've included in theirs is also the impact of Senate Bill 4, which increases the homestead exemption from $100,000 to $140,000, as well as Senate Bill 23, which increases the 65 and over and the disabled homestead exemption from $10,000 to $60,000. So both of those exemptions would reduce our T2 value, as you'll see on the slide there. TASBO is projecting $60.8 billion. Moat Casey is now projecting $57.8 billion. So pretty significant decrease there of almost $3 billion. And so then that would also reduce our property tax collections. And so to be conservative going forward, I'm using the Moat Casey projection. So just we'll see where it lands. We received a legislative budget board projection. It's actually a little bit lower than this, and so just there's still uncertainty, until this is finalized. Wanted to share some of the details of House Bill 2 and really just how they impact us based on the Moat Casey latest funding run. And so House Bill 2 includes teacher compensation increases through a teacher retention allotment that provides $2,500 for teachers with 3 and 4 years of experience and $5,000 for teachers with 5+ years of experience. That would be a $14 million increase in our funding. There's a $500 million for non-administrative staff pay raises through a $45 per student in ADA. And so that would be about $1.7 million increase. And they also included a fixed cost allotment this year, which was $106 per student, per enrolled student, to help pay for utilities, transportation, some of the costs that we've seen significant. And so for us, that would be about a $5 million increase. A few of the additional items in the bill would be $677 million for early learning programs, which for us would be about $770,000 of additional funding. $430 million in additional school safety funding to increase the per student allotment from $10 to $20 and to increase the per campus allotment from $15,000 to $33,540. $850 million increase to special ed, which would be about $3 million for us, and then an increase to career and technology education, which would be about a $250,000 increase. So the biggest portion of House Bill 2 that you just saw is for the teacher retention allotment. And so you'll see here Tim Chafin put together a calculation that would show us what our salary increase scenario would look like based on House Bill 2. And so, previous months we talked about a 3% raise for staff, and so that's included in here with the exception of teachers at years 3 and 4 and then 5+. And so for those teachers, you'll see the amounts that I mentioned on the previous slide and how many of those employees we have and what the increase in cost would be. And then you'll see he broke down the remaining job classifications and how many staff members we have in those categories, and then what that raise cost would be for each of those. And so that brings us to a total cost increase for salaries only of $20 million. The state would reimburse us for whatever the amount turns out to be for the 3 and 4 and 5+ teachers. So for this illustration, it's $15,642,000. So if we have fewer or more teachers, whatever the case may be, we're going to get reimbursed for that amount. So that would put the district cost of the total of the salary increase less what we're going to get back from the state of $4.4 million. Dr. Rapp was going to mention some additional adjustments.
Yes. So, Board, one of the things as we're looking at the budget for next year and considering what to do about salaries for all staff, I did want to put on your radar that it's been a couple of years, because we haven't had an increase the basic allotment, that we haven't brought forward any market adjustments because we didn't do any raises in pay at all. But we put the salary study on hold that resulted from the HR audit because of that as well. We have 12 pay grades that are below 90% of the market that need review. We have about 10 pay grades that are between 90% to 96% of the market that need review. The vast majority of our other pay grades are between 97 to 104% of the market. So I would be looking to work with Ms. Cobb on identifying some of these most urgent market adjustments for you all to consider as we work on finalizing the budget that we bring to you all in August as well. On the next slide, you're going to see basically what Mr. Rare was showing. So we're projecting that beginning fiscal year 26 deficit at $24 million. We have committed to $11.4 million of budget reductions. I have those on the next slide just as a reminder that we still have to right-size our budget to our enrollment decline. And as he said, our enrollment decline is about a $15 million revenue loss. So the deficit after those reductions is about $13 million. You see the HB2 raise for teachers would be about $15.6 million, as he said. So what we have ballparked for you in this budget tonight is a 3% raise, 3% of the midpoint raise for all other staff. And there's that $4.4 million, along with $2.2 million, which is what we would need to do for additional benefits due to raises. So our projected deficit without the legislature help would be $35 million. Of course, as Mr. Rare shared, we would get the teacher retention allotment. There's that 15.6 that offsets the HB2 raise. Then there's a little bit of money that they provided for other staff. That's $1.6 million. And then that other HB2 funding. So right now, very early, we're saying roughly a $9 million deficit. We definitely believe we can continue to tighten this deficit up and ultimately can bring forward for you all on Monday night a compensation resolution for a 3% of the midpoint raise for all other staff based on your feedback this evening as well. And then there's those budget reductions that we've committed to for this coming school year, and we've been discussing these for the past several months. Mr. Rare, anything on that slide there that you want to point out before I hand it over to Ms. Cobb on benefits?
No.
So I'm going to turn it over to Melissa to make a few notes about benefits and subcompensation, and then Ms. Prosnick will turn it back over to you for discussion and feedback.
Thank you. Good evening, all. As we know, benefits go hand in hand within our compensation package, and right now we do not know what the changes will be for the 25-26 school year. We will find out tomorrow after the TRS board meeting, so more information for you all to consider as for Monday night. So we'll know more tomorrow. As a review, this is very typical what we share. This is information based on TRS Active Care 2, which is what the majority of our staff choose. There's our rates that the district pays in for each of those different portions of the plan, and then you can see what we've paid out from 2020 all the way till now. Right now we're at $15 million, but we've not calculated the end of the last month, the end of the year yet. And then this is a review slide as well, just the benefit offerings that we offer as a district that are significant and unique to LASD as compared to other districts surrounding us. The substitute program, as you all know, we are taking that back in-house and working furiously to get that done. I do have to do one plug that's not on the slide. We have about 470 subs in the hiring process with another 170 in the docket. So very excited about that. So as you know, we did talk earlier in the season about a potential change in sub pay rates. We have estimated we can raise the pay for subs and increase the fill rate to 81%, as has been, we've had 65 this year because of ESS, but calculating that, increasing the fill rate to 81%, we feel like we can stay within the 5.5 million budget. I will tell you this year we haven't finalized the numbers, but we feel like we will be ending this year at 5.1, staying within our budget. So here's what we're projecting, the proposal, where we would like to increase our rates. Our certified rate, we would like it to go from $125 to $130 per day. Our former LISD certified rate, that's a certified individual, that's a former LISD employee, we would like that to go from $145 to $155 per day. The long-term degreed rate from $120 to $130, and the long-term certified rate from $140 to $165. That will allow us to remain competitive with the surrounding districts.
So then our next steps for the fiscal year 26 budget forecast, as Dr. Rapp mentioned, we'd bring forward the compensation plan for action on June 9th based on direction from the board. We would update our budget projection with certified values once we receive those in July. And we would use those values to submit the local property value survey and receive our maximum compressed rate from TEA so that we can move forward with a tax rate adoption in August. And then I didn't include this on here, but throughout the remainder of the summer, we'll continue to review the budget. Earlier in fiscal year 25, you saw we had significant savings right now on contracted services. Well, as we bring subs, as we bring transportation and move those from contracted to in-house, we'll continue to review those budgets to see where there could be possible savings and further reduce the budget for next year to, as Dr. Rapp said, to get closer to that 1%, 1.5% deficit at a maximum.
And with that, we'll turn it back over to you all for discussion and feedback and questions.
Ms. Lasan.
I guess I'll start. So the 9% projected deficit, what percentage is that?
Without calculating in my head, I mean, it's less than 2%.
Okay, and we're trying to get at what are we trying to get to?
1.5 at maximum, 1 to 1.5%.
Anywhere between around $5 million or less, that would allow me to meet the scorecard target.
Okay, that's part of what I was getting at. Okay, and so color me, I don't know, I can't think of the word. I'm too tired. Skeptical. That's what I'm trying to say. So this $15 million that we're, hopefully going to be reimbursed. Do we know, because we've been burned in the past, right? 2 sessions ago, they said, oh, we're going to get this much money, but it was, so they're doing it differently so that, we know that, we come to them and say, hey, this is how much it cost, and they reimburse us instead of saying, hey, you have this much.
And it's based on the number of positions that we have in those categories. So information that they'd received through PEAMS. And so they would then see how many of those teachers we had in each of those categories. And that's what we'd be reimbursed for.
So it is working differently than 2 sessions ago when it didn't come out like it was supposed to, like they said.
Yeah. Yes, and really until we see the bill finalized.
Yeah.
And we receive funding templates because we really don't have that yet at this time because until all the the language of the bill is finalized, we won't have that. But at this point, I mean, that's the understanding is we should get reimbursed for the actual number of teachers categories.
Okay. I think, and so if you're looking for our input as far as, salary and all that kind of stuff, obviously I think, we have to do what the legislature says, which I fully am happy to do, right? I guess I would like to see it broken down a little bit more on the 3% raises for all other staff. Just because, I guess I would like to see more options, of what those numbers would be. I do want you to go ahead and work together to get, what positions that we need to move up, to become competitive. Because maybe it's not just a sweeping 3% across the board. Maybe it's, we look at these certain positions and see, hey, what needs to be brought up to speed. I know we need to increase the salary of our subs. I know we need to increase the salary of the bus drivers. To me, we have to do that. So I don't know. I guess I'm kind of looking at more of a broken down, what are our options, as opposed to just a sweeping, everybody else gets 3%, is kind of what I'm thinking, and I know that's kind of...
So are you looking for categorizing what gets 3%? Are you looking for 4%? I mean, I'm trying to help give direction.
I wish we could, but I don't think we can do more than 3%.
So you're looking for maybe a 2% in some areas, or?
Yeah, 2%, kind of going from there. If we, and are we looking at changing, a lot of, you always present to us like, this is what a brand new teacher is going to make. Are we looking at changing that? Is that, we are? You do? Okay.
That the projected number is 62.5.
Okay. What was it last year?
It's 60,850.
Okay, so it would go up. And why are we having it go up?
Well, if we made all of these adjustments, if it was 3%, it would be 62.5, which is very comparable to what other districts are. They're already in the 61s and the 62s.
Okay.
A couple of points. We absolutely will work up any other options, of course, as necessary. One of the reasons for starting with a 3% across the board, since we weren't able to do raises last year, and many of our peers still did, we've lost some ground, as we know. So a 3% for all other positions would hopefully at least help with that. The other thing that we're going to face with this teacher increase, and this is the reason I went back to this slide, because that basically teachers years 5 and up, that represents a 7.5% of the midpoint increase with what the legislature did. So, which is great. What's going to happen though is that you're going to have certain teachers next school year who want to promote maybe into a first year AP or a first year counselor, and they're going to be making more as a teacher possibly, or the first year AP or first year counselor is going to be making very little there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of salary compression, and many of my peers are talking about this same thing. Is that's going to be a real issue, and a 3% of the midpoint is one step to try to address that, because the more that gap is between that 7.5% of the midpoint and all your other pay grades, that's just something that y'all are going to have to, consider as we analyze this.
I totally get that, and that completely makes sense. It really does. Obviously, this is very complicated, situation that we're in. But anyway, I guess I would kind of like to see more options. I'd like to see you guys definitely look at these positions that we need to look at, and.
Would a ranking help you?
A ranking how?
Like where we fall amongst our peers?
That would help, sure. Yeah, I mean, you usually give us that information anyway, so yeah, that would absolutely help, yeah.
I'll look down here first, because I get accused of never looking to my right. So, Ms. Sells.
I think that was my question, was I really want to see what our peers are doing. I'm okay with 3%, but I want to see how, if we move these pay grades to more of a market position, how that's going to change that bottom number. And that, I think that's more of my concern, because right now I'm not sure who those 12 pay grades are. I'm not sure who those other 10 are. And I really don't know the other pay grades. I mean, who's at the 104? I mean, so I think I would like to see it on both ends, but I would also like to see the comparison too. And I know y'all are trying to keep your slides down. I understand that, but we do like those comparisons to our neighboring districts. That just kind of helps us kind of stew in all the minutia of what are employees thinking when they're looking at LISD or a Plano or whoever. So.
And we definitely have quite a few of those comparisons. UEA puts out some of that data about teachers, as well. When it says other pay grades, AP 640 and below, that's not below market on that. That's just all the people that are in the pay grades.
I need that.
Okay.
I'm on the market adjustments needed slide here. Okay. So
we're working on that right now.
But I'm
getting
not,
you that information.
I'm not as interested other than maybe at those others that are over the 100% of the market. And if they're going to stay there, I'd like a comparison. Will they stay there if we don't give them the 3%? But having not given a pay raise last year, when you look at a 2%, we're back in the negative again, because they're already in the negative from last year and the increase in the insurance. So to give them a 2% is like, well, here's some lunch money. Not sure I'm ready to do that.
And we don't know yet what benefits will be. So,
Ms. Alcative?
I mean, I'll give my input as well. I mean, I was along the same lines. I was curious about the pay grades and understanding that and breaking that down. So if we could get that, that would be very helpful. And definitely understanding that 3%, like you said, that's kind of like the bare minimum in order to even begin. But definitely looking at those other positions, kind of like Allison was also saying, to see how it is. So.
Oh, they get to go first plenty. Dr. Barker.
Thank you, Madam President. My colleagues have said so many great things. I agree. I think that if we don't do something meaningful, we're going to lose some people. To echo my colleague, Madam President, they stuck with us. And it's now our turn to honor that and to show that we're sticking with them. I have a question, and maybe we don't know yet because of the language and with the bill, but there was some talk around whether this is just a one-time or whether we get this for 2 years. So does the teacher retention allotment just cover this year? Do we get it for the following year? And then do we have to wait for a new legislative session to see what happens?
And that could be where the catch is. And so right now it's written that it's supposed to continue. Whether it does or not, I don't know. But it's written to where it's actually going to continue year after year.
Year after year. Okay, so as long as a new bill doesn't negate what's happening here, the idea is that we're not on the hook for those particular raises year after year, that it's going to continue.
We would not be unless in a future legislative session they repealed this.
All right. The second thing that I want to say is an increase in the fill rate. Man, that would go a long way to help our teachers out. They have been struggling with that lower fill rate. So that in itself would be a gift that we could give back to them. So thank you for looking for a way to make that happen, because that's huge. And now I'm going to get on my soapbox for just a minute. Yep. I wrote it down, so I may not go too long. What I wish that everybody would understand, and I'm a researcher, so this is not just me talking, this is the research talking. To have great teachers, you have to have great leaders. You have to have great support systems in place. Teachers do not teach in isolation. They have great counselors behind them. They have great librarians behind them. They have great aides behind them. They have principals and APs that go to bat for them every single day. They have people in this room that are here late on a Monday night, twice a month, not to count all of the other things, to make sure that we know the information that we need to know to govern this district. That put together these proposals so that we know what the impact is going to be to make our fill rate 81%. And I agree that, it is really admirable that we are so much lower on our administration, but at what cost in terms of support? We've made drastic adjustments in how we provide support. And I love teachers. I have a huge heart for teachers. And I'm so glad that the legislature came through and gave some money for teachers. But they are not the only ones in these buildings that deserve it. So I agree. I want us to make sure that we look at where those positions fall in the market, because we have some fantastic leaders and support in this district, and I don't want to lose them. And for me, $4.5 million is beyond worth it for us to put in to give those individuals the recognition and the compensation that they deserve. Maybe even that is not enough, but to me, that's worth it.
You may follow that, Dr. Taylor.
I don't know how I'll follow that, so I guess I won't try. I actually had a question about one of the slides, and I was trying to figure out the number, but I'll just reference it. The potential fiscal year, it may have started with the projected beginning of a year or the fiscal year 26 deficit. It started with the 24 million. So I guess I was looking for, were the Wager land sales included? Because I guess I thought the deficit was like the two, but we're starting with the roll forward, right? The beginning?
You're correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're starting with the roll forward because with all things being equal, we would just move forward our revenues and expenditures.
Right.
So what was adopted this year would move forward into next year.
So not where we ended
Not
up.
your actual, yes.
Gotcha. Okay, that was my question.
Unless you decided to reduce your expenditure or increase your revenue.
Gotcha. Okay, makes total sense. I was just looking for it and was a little bit confused. And then my other question was related to the salary increases. I wanted to know if that was a one-time cost or, as you mentioned, if we were going to be on the hook going forward. So I think you answered that question. And then my last question was, with the TRS info coming tomorrow, when could we expect, I guess, to have those costs updated so we could see that information?
We'll have it in the board book for Monday.
Okay, for
night.
Monday. Got it. And then I do agree with everything my colleagues have said around, raises. I mean, again, I think we all were disappointed and sad that we couldn't do anything really last year. And again, our teachers really took a pay cut when we looked at the increase in benefits. We were happy to do that one-time adjustment just to say thank you for staying here, but I don't think going forward that is going to work, and it shouldn't work. We talk about it every time we talk about teachers. What do we need to do? And all the other things are nice, don't get me wrong. All the other, non-cash benefits, but you got to pay people. We got to reward them and show them that they matter. And I say it all the time. I get it. Teachers are not here generally for the income. They're here for student outcomes. But we need to pay them and reward them. And like you said, they showed up for us. Like our president said, they showed up for us day after day when they took a pay cut. They likely, with the inflationary costs we already talked about, struggle with bills or how they're going to pay for something, or how will I pay for gas to get back and forth between the campuses, or food or utilities. And so we have to do something. And I personally feel like 3% is the minimum that we should be talking about, though I do appreciate getting my colleagues wanting more information. So that's my input.
Dr. Bonner.
Well, I was thankful that my colleagues got to weigh in because it cut out some of what I thought I needed to say. I was pretty excited when I saw we could do 3% for $4 million. It's been a long time since $4 million would get 3% around here, right? You're at 3.5%, 3.75%, something like that now for 1%. So fully appreciate that. And as we've talked a little bit tonight, keeping in mind there's some salary schedules that need to be adjusted a little bit. If we can get into the top quartile with that 3% and everything that the state has done the next 2 years on all our schedules, that would be great. We'd be almost right back where we want to be. So I'm hopeful that that's the case. So mark me down for 3% and adjusting those that need to be adjusted to get them up to market. When the Senate rewrote House Bill 2, it interested me, their approach, rather than adjusting the basic allotment, they kind of cherry-picked, right? They picked this allotment or that allotment, and they created a whole new way to fund teacher raises, which we've expressed concern about tonight, probably because it's new, but it's almost like, hey, we're going to do this 2 years and then see what the revenue available is. We don't want to get too far down the road, which from a conservative standpoint, I appreciate, but it leaves every district in the state asking these same questions. What are we going to do in 3 years? So that's just where we are, and 3% sounds good. I appreciate also mentioning the compression of the schedules because you're going to have to do something there. I don't know what that's going to look like, but it is going to press advancement down. It's going to make it more difficult, which may very well stand to cause some people to leave, frankly, if we can't get some measures in there. So we've got people in place that can figure that out, right, Ms. Cobb?
Yes,
yes,
we do.
yeah.
I have a strong team.
And then lastly, I wanted to talk about tax rate a minute because you piqued my interest there, Ms. Rare, on that. On the Moat Casey, it looked like there was little to no appreciation of property valuations, which kept our tax rate the same, limited any compression, bottom line, right? Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I looked at that correctly. Now, in the other instance, there was about 2 cents, about $0.0175. So wherever we land on there, certainly if there's no compression, but even if there's just a scant 2 cents, I would like if our board could consider 1 more cent on the INS next year. I know there's some tax manipulation that we need to do here in the coming weeks on some other things, but and particularly with the bill, which would have limited our bond issuance and votes moving forward off the table, there's space to do that. And so I think that'd be a good nod to our taxpayers. So I wanted to throw that out tonight as well since it was in the slides. So thank you.
I agree with Dr. Bonner. Anytime we can, I would say, give our taxpayers any kind of a break, I would like to do that as long as it doesn't infect the classroom. 3% to me is the bare minimum. I think $4 million is so easily achievable with what we've seen. I do have a couple of questions about your assumption for staffing at 98%, because I looked at where we're at right now, and we're about almost 1.99 above that. And so I would hate to once again underestimate that going forward for next year. I know we still had some savings, et cetera, in that, but as we move, to your point, as we move busing and we move subs over, we have a machine over here that is just filling it fast as attrition and other things are happening. And so that assumption, scare is the wrong word, weary would be my word on that. And going forward, I do have a question on the subs. So when we're talking about subs, we are not including in that our permanent subs, correct?
Correct.
Our permanent subs are just considered
They're full-time employees.
full-time, they're full FTEs.
There's an FTE for them, each one of them.
Got it. So my question is, as we take that on and you're at 81, are we still going to, one of the reasons that we went to an outside service was because we had parts of the district that had hard to fill spots. Where do you think you're going? There's some campuses that are going to be very easy to get to 81. That's kind of where I'm going. Some campuses, it's going to be so easy. They'll be at 90 if you'd let them.
They'll be at 100.
They'll be at 100. Mm-hmm. I'm more concerned about those campuses that set at 40 or 50. And are we looking at any creative or other incentives to help some of those campuses?
Incentive-wise, we haven't gotten there yet, but we certainly can look at that. One of the things, the positives that could come out of the permanent subs, the reduction of 96 to 40, and they are actually going to be housed in my department. Every day or every night, we are going to deploy them, is what I like to say, based on need. And that is based on historical data, and it's across the district. So those that are choosing to apply to be part of the pool of permanent subs, we've opened it up to all the current ones, and we put them in places. They have the opportunity to give us where they want to work, the location, and then if we can fit it in there, we'll go there. If they don't, then we have several of them have already said, I want to be wherever I want to serve. So they'll go to those places that we have historically have had a hard time filling.
Okay.
That is the plan right now. If we need to incentivize or do other things, we certainly have no problem coming up with ideas.
But as we did talk about, because the data was so yet all over the place on what is hard to fill, that it didn't have consistent trends and patterns. By trying this floater pool this way, we'll get to see how this works. But ultimately, we may find that with the increased sub pool and the increased sub rates, we may find they want to go back to just being a regular sub in the sub pool, and maybe it narrows down how big you need that floater pool to be. Maybe you don't need 40 after this next year.
And this is probably not a discussion for now or even for this budget, but I do think the other thing that I think we might need to look at is our stipend and where we fall in our stipends with other districts. Because that's part of salary, but once again, I think that might be something to look forward in the coming year for the up year as we look for the pay grades and so forth. I think that's far more important, but I do think that stipends is something that we need to just take a look at and see where we are in comparison with our neighbors. I think we're really high on some ends.
We do that. So we'll bring it forward the next year.
Great. Perfect. Anything else forward on that? All right. It's legal services time. Ms. Bay.
Board. Good evening. You have in your board book, it looks like 4 policy changes, but really it's 2 substantial policy changes. One that deals with our employee conflict of interest, and one that deals with our grievances in 3 individual forms for our employees, our students, and public grievances. These were brought before the board policy committee. We had some really great discussion with everyone on the meeting, and we did make those changes and get them approved. So I will kick it over to Dr. Bonner for any input he wants to add from the board policy committee.
Well, certainly not just me. Dr. Barker is also on the committee along with Ms. Sells, but they're really pretty simple, ladies. I mean, jump in whenever, but DCD is conflict of interest, right? Whether it's supervisor, financial disclosure, student travel, interestingly enough, is in that. as well as, well, are you going to travel with students on your own time, that sort of thing. And then also instances of other employment. And we had pretty good conversation around how to actually, we tipped over into administrivia just a little bit on how we're going to track this. So anyway, that was DCD. And then on the others, DGBA, FNG, and GF are all complaint procedures. And we sort of covered some things that maybe you shouldn't have to say, but experience has taught us that you do. And that is, once you are given relief, it's done. And if you don't show up, it's done. So, ladies, I'll stop there and get out of your way if you'd like to add anything to that.
Perfect. So in accordance with your board operating procedures, tonight is a first read of these policies, and they will be brought before you next week for consent for hopefully approval and implementation.
Right. Very good. Good work. Human Resources, Dr. Rapp.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, we've discussed the conversion from Munis to Skyward. The ERP conversion was significant this school year, and so we're bringing forward a resolution for consideration for action on Monday night that would provide a flat rate payment of $5,000 to identified employees that had significant responsibility in that conversion effort, and just modeling this similarly how we did with the school retirement schools and bringing a resolution forward for those one-time payments for staff and the work that they were doing to pack up the buildings for us and get their classrooms move ready. So I know you have another chance to ask questions about this as we go into Monday night, but that really is the purpose here. We would ultimately then consider something similar as we go through the SIS conversion. The money for this can be paid for with bond funds because the ERP and the SIS conversions are bond projects.
Any comments, questions? You certainly, Dr. Bonner.
Just huge thanks. If you could make sure we all pass that along to those individuals. It's not everybody. It's some select people, whomever they are. We don't know who they are. But big thanks, because that ERP seems, at least from a board perspective, was relatively smooth. Now, that's really a terrible thing to say because we're so far removed from it, and I don't mean to diminish anybody's work, but it's smooth because of those folks doing the work, and they certainly should be rewarded for the work they did. So thank you.
I would say we're not as removed that if it didn't go well, we certainly would have heard about it.
100%. 100%.
All right. Moving on. The technology report. One night we've got to reverse alphabetize this for you. Just once at least.
All right. Thank you. This topic is referencing 2017 and 2023 bonds. So I'll explain why in a minute. I also asked David Kuntz to come up and join us as he's very involved in this. And Dr. Rapp kind of teed up the kind of primary topic that we want to go over for tonight. Last month, we shared information about the student information system, the project itself that we're evaluating staffing, and just want to remind the board again that this is a massive project. It's far-reaching. It impacts really everybody in the organization, and we want to make sure that when we do that, similar to what we just talked about on the ERP, that we're addressing the staffing needs, not only to implement the project from an implementation perspective, but also to implement the functionality of the software across the board. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to David. He's going to give you a couple updates on where we are in the process, and then I'll forecast, as I typically do, what's coming up for future board topics.
So the district has evaluated options related to staffing, and really we're trying to target what the best approach is for different staffing needs. Those may be contracted services, or it could be looking at doing some direct hiring of staff for project dedicated positions for the implementation. And you'll recall we used a similar approach when we did the enterprise resource planning project, the ERP project. We did some contracted services related to project management and some other related services to support that project implementation. And that, as mentioned previously, it was another one of our 2023 bond projects, just like the SIS implementation is. But we did fund those implementation services through technology bond 2017 funds. So, and I'll note that we didn't expend all the authorization that was provided for that. But for the SIS project, we expect that implementation to last about 12 months. So it'll start this summer and wrap up going live next summer. But that won't be the full extent of the additional needs that we have from a staffing perspective. We anticipate significant support requirements the first school year that we're live on the new system. So school business is a cyclical thing where you start the school year and you do certain processes to start the year that you may not do until the next school year starts. But you also have a cadence of things. You do a report card at the 9 weeks, and then it's 9 more weeks until you do that again. And so we anticipate significant support recurring throughout the year as people are either encountering the first time they've done a process in the new system, or it's the first time they've done it for a while since they did it in the new system. So we know that that's going to require some additional support, so that's what this is about. We've kind of broken it down into 3 different elements here. First of all, some additional project-dedicated staff resources related to key areas of the implementation, including or such as project management, mentoring, technical training, and some subject matter expertise. We also are looking we have campus gradebook mentors on each campus. They are there to help answer questions from their colleagues they have about the gradebook. But we know that this year is going to be different in the 26-27 school year. The burden that they will face answering questions from colleagues is not going to be typical. So to help them be confident in that situation, we are going to be preparing additional training for them to go through to prepare them for that. And so because they'll be asked to do extra and we expect the support burden to be extra, we are proposing a one-time implementation stipend for those campus gradebook mentors to receive in the 26-27 school year. And speaking of going above and beyond, similar to what was just discussed related to the ERP, we want to go ahead and allocate some funds for anticipated overtime or one-time payments for staff that are asked to, in addition to their daily responsibilities in the current system, to make school operate. We know that there's going to be implementation project work that they're going to be asked to do above and beyond that. And so for some of those people that are going beyond, we want to try to budget some funds for that work. And so we are recommending using the 2017 technology bond budget again to fund these staffing needs for the SIS project, similar to what we had used for the ERP project.
Yeah, and just to give that a little bit more context, I did include some information in the board letter this week to give you some, I guess, what our basis is for that. And I would just want to kind of reiterate that that's a basis. And what we're really bringing forward next week for a recommendation is an expenditure amount that allows us to start trying to secure the personnel resources for that. And that could look different depending on where we can source some of that expertise. Okay. In addition to that, as David mentioned, the 2017 bond, we were able to implement the ERP system, and that project is coming in somewhere probably around $450K under what we budgeted. So some of those funds we feel like we can apply to this. And if you look at our monthly technology report, we're over that $5 million balance. So I think it's a good way to move this project forward. And in addition to that, like I said, we put information in the board letter, but this is going to evolve. And there's going to be some other things that come up throughout the year. In fact, we even had some conversations today around some of the challenges. As you know, we're not only dealing with the implementation of the project, but we're also trying to implement the project around new standards with TEA and EdFi and how that impacts our work with this in addition to this project. So this, if we find that we need something above and beyond what the recommendation is for Monday, we will certainly come back. So I just want to make sure we're transparent and saying this is what we think we need, but it could change a little bit, okay? So with that, we'd be planning on bringing a recommendation item next week. So if we look at our June consent, the SIS pieces, what we just referenced. Also last month we talked about our Apple residual value. Those prices have come back, so we're ready to bring that recommendation forward next week. Obviously there's no July board meeting, so I wanted to forecast a little bit what's coming up for August discussion. I did put on here the private LTE project. We are still working through some engineering, so I would say it's tentative, but we still have July to work through some of that, so I'm hoping that we can bring that forward in August as a discussion item. If we are able to pull the engineering pieces together, that would come forward as consent in August. And then last month we also talked about the ERP clock, our time clock system. We're getting pricing on that hardware, so hopefully that part is done where we can bring forward a recommendation for that cost and what the hardware would be. So with that, if you have any questions, we'll do our best to answer them.
Looks like you got off scot-free.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thanks for being here. Next up is the Board of Trustees report for our board committee updates. We really only have one, which is Dr. Barker.
Yes, just a reminder to my fellow board members that while we don't have a board meeting or board workshop in July, the Board Operating Procedures Committee will still be meeting to make any updates to our lovingly called BOP. So be on the lookout for an email from me about any recommendations you have for updates or revisions to the BOP, and then we will convene in July and provide you a draft of that updated BOP for your review.
Right. Do any other chairs have anything else? That was kind of the only one that came to mind. Next up is our action item. Consider approval of the 2023 bond first sale furniture moves and purchases. Mr. Rare, we kind of spoke about it earlier, but...
Yes, I'll make it brief. So as Randy mentioned in the 2023 construction update, the need to purchase furniture for the campuses that are receiving new students. So bringing it to you tonight for your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Rare. Would someone like to make a motion? Ms. Sells.
I move that the board approve any furniture-related moves that are part of any campus receiving new students be funded by surplus 2023 bond first sale year one furniture replacement funds, FB01 and FB02.
Is there a second? Dr. Bonner. All those in favor? That's unanimous. The vote carries 7-0. And because I'm a woman of my word, I will announce that Texas Tech defeated Oklahoma in four-time national champion softball. That is for my Red Raider fans here. If there is no further business, this meeting is adjourned, and the time is 9:27 p.m. Have a pleasant evening. Boomers sooner.